in over 100 countries, in 7 different languages, to more than 500 million viewers each week. The World Wrestling Federation, the worldwide leader in sports entertainment.
Hello and welcome to Benno and Hamflett in Your House, a podcast reviewing WWE's iconic New Generation and Attitude Era B shows in order from the bust back to the boom. I'm Michael Hamflett.
And I'm Benno, and it'll never feel normal, mate. The old switch over between what we knew and what we know now. And yeah, again, we are finding ourselves, mate, as we talk about like the bitty changeover period that we've been covering. We've called this episode unofficially, but it'll be official now, I think. A new nation and not since, a new generation, mate. And the very first Benno and Hamflett have I felt like, the change of the guard is so official.
Yeah, it's been remarkable. We've kind of like made the point to comment over a period of years at this point how, like, a bit like ourselves, the Fed was going through a maturation process. You know, it was finding, certain programs on at midnight for an extra 10 minutes. It was learning new words in the schoolyard that it hadn't heard before. It was finding episodes of Raw magazine in bushes and then leaving them for the next person, all that sort of stuff. So you always think, it's always just going to be like this and it's just going to be gradual. You know, what do they say? Like incremental changes and the like. And then we've just been made complete liars and fools of over the course of the housekeeping that we're about to review, because we're going to track today the obviously all the fallout of No Way Out of Texas into WrestleMania 14 and then into Unforgiven. And I know we've said this about these housekeepings before, and we're very conscious of sometimes how some of these spiral out of control lengthwise. There will be no 5-star match review today, by the way, because there is a lot to cover. But we're not just covering the period between two in your houses. We're covering the period that dissects 2 different World Wrestling Federations.
Totally.
It's like, it's not just a case of logos anymore, is it? It's not just a case of like, and as we would see, by the way, with these early ones that we're going to talk about today, with like what looks like somebody has hand painted a scratch logo on that little back wall of the Monday Night Raw set. It's like, it's not quite right. But then as soon as WrestleMania 14 ticks over, like in a way that even I didn't comprehend years ago when we were of the age to be watching this, or in the multiple rewatches of like certain things in this period of time, I don't even think until we were kind of looking at it forensically here did I quite comprehend how WWF were like, right, and the real quiz starts and now like they like right down to the belts, right down to everybody getting new belts, and like what we'll talk about a little bit, the Attitude Era ident and stuff. There can be no confusion anymore about what world we live in, none at all.
No, I mean, this feels like, is this Benno and Hamflett the new class, except it's good? Like, it really is like that much, isn't it? It really is weird, like we've talked about it, the gambit of emotions, kind of, we feel like going through this period, and, you know, it's memories versus reality, and I am getting that flooding back. It's like, there's part of me, to be honest, with what we're going to go through today, Michael, it's obviously going to be lauded, and you've done, again, the Lord's work in putting this playlist together of all the different parts we're going to cover between the two in your houses as the text gets slightly smaller through it. But, like, honestly, it does bring back, like, those thoughts of just, I'm not sure if this is man anymore. I feel like this is the lads in schools now. I can, like, distinctly remember segments we're going to talk about today of, like, someone in school who never felt like they'd ever watched wrestling before, all of a sudden had an opinion on it. You know, where were you? You know, when it was Davey Boy Smith versus Shawn Michaels, you know, Billy Green, who, to be fair, you mentioned there before, you know, the lads in school who'd find the porn magazines in the bushes. He was the one in my school who found the porn magazine in the bushes and took it home. I hope his future wife listens to this, you know, you get found out all these years later. But you know, he's like, I've got to take it back to me. I've got to show me dad. He'll find it then funny. Yeah, mate, of course, that's what you were doing. Absolutely. But I remember him. I remember a few others, and it was just like, yeah, fuck, this isn't mine anymore. And it's for good, and it's for all the good reasons, and it's for good as well. And it, you know, is a positive overall. But I'm feeling it again today. Going through this one today, mate.
Yeah, I mean, let's get right into it, because we're about to talk about a guy who has taken, I think, even longer than we remembered to just find everything that fit about him, Stone Cold Steve Austin. But there can be no question now that, like, especially when we were talking about the very end of No Way Out and the stunner on China and the housekeeping where we covered Tyson and Austin. I feel like you have to say it 3 times, otherwise you'll get a Danhausen curse or something. Like,
wouldn't fit on the banner, that but yeah, still neither with No Way Out of Texas and
of Texas.
Well. Too many letters.
WWF had the same problem then, didn't they? Like, he's entering. Steve Austin's like entering his major label era right now, isn't he? Like, we're on the home straight now to WrestleMania. Jim Ross has talked about him as the man that can't be stopped. And we joined Steve Austin on the March 2nd edition of Monday Night Raw. And it is prevalent that prototype Attitude Era scratch logo was on the back wall of the Raw stage for the first time. It looks horrendous, but they'd tweak it and they'd get it right by, indeed, the end of this housekeeping. And ultimately, I think like what's telling here is that DX are all back together. Shawn Michaels has missed No Way Out. But Triple H is already getting the catchphrases in. He talks about WrestleMania will be X-rated. Not X-rated because they couldn't peddle porn and all that sort of stuff. But he talks about how discretion is advised but will be completely ignored. Parents, get your kids' permission, all that sort of stuff. It has been handed over basically to the teenagers and all those kind of people. And Triple H has got to talk about Owen Hart, but we'll leave that to the DX section specifically because Shawn Michaels wants to talk about Iron Mike Tyson, who's obviously had his troubles with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he's going to be coming to Raw tonight at the Gund Arena. DX are going to be making Mike Tyson an offer that he can't refuse, but he threatens Mike Tyson not to make the wrong decision. Shawn Michaels goes back to Stone Cold Steve Austin. The mere mention of Austin's name gets an absolutely incredible pop, and this is the second time now where, for all the dicking about, sometimes literally, we've seen Shawn Michaels do, the locking in and the getting serious with Austin transforms the room, doesn't it? The sudden realization that this like unstoppable heel world champion Shawn Michaels will be taking on Steve Austin, the folk hero. It changes the entire temperature. And he just reiterates, he says, Steve, you are taking on the number one man, the showstopper, the icon, the main event, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. The toughest SOB in the WWF is not tough enough to take on the Heartbreak Kid. And if it's up to me, son, you're going to get a sweet chin music tonight. He says he's going to crack Austin's chrome dome like an egg. That results in Steve Austin thinking, I've had enough of that, thanks very much. He comes out, he's wearing his brand new, very dapper SCU Class of 316 shirt. As we go through this, Austin wears about 4 shirts because they obviously can't keep them in the buildings like quick enough, can they, at this time? But before the two of them can do anything face to face, the lights go off, everything turns red, and Kane's music hits. Last week on Raw, Paul Bearer had challenged Steve Austin to a fight and says you don't need to worry about WrestleMania because Austin and Kane are going to have a confrontation later on that night. The lights come back on. D-Generation X have bailed out the crowd. Austin hits the commentary desk to say this is total BS. Get Steve Austin a hot dog and a cold beer. He's enjoying that one at the moment. It always gets a pop. He says he'll whip Kane's ass tonight if he has to. He calls out Mike Tyson again. He says he's not scared of Kane. He's not scared of anybody. Stone Cold's time has come. You're looking at the next WWF champion. And then we flash forward to later on the show where Steve Austin comes out bravely for his match with Kane. He's not backing down. But then as he's walking out, he catches a glimpse of Triple H in his peripheral vision. He sees Triple H on the stage. He goes for him. He turns around, wham, right into Sweet Chin music on the stage. Triple H and Shawn give Austin the crotch chop. Michaels has delivered on his promise to drill Austin just like he said he would. Funnily enough, the Steve Austin Kane match that WWE have been advertising for 2 hours can't go ahead. And Austin recovers to chase after Shawn throughout the building, leaving Kane with nothing to do. We'll discuss what he does get up to later on in the show. But yeah, them now zeroing in, kind of almost remembering, wait a minute, Tyson's amazing, the Fed's on fire, but we do have a singles match that we need to promote. We should probably get around to promoting that. They kind of hit this all at once now, don't they?
Yeah, that's kind of the Jekyll and Hyde of this period. It's like, what do we focus on? Is it Tyson? Is it Vince and Austin? Is it Austin and Shawn Michaels, who's facing at WrestleMania? Is it Triple H? Well, Triple H believes it's Triple H, as you can see in this scene here as well. But like, it's good business. It's, I'm sure it was an easy conversation with Shawn Michaels. Oh, guess what? You get to lay out Stone Cold Steve Austin. Doesn't that sound fun, Shawn? Or if I'm honest, it's probably his idea more than anything, isn't it? Or it's the other one in his ear whispering to him that it's a great idea. But like, it's honestly jarring, even seeing it, just seeing Austin lying down. There were obviously points during the Hart rivalries and, with other people like you've seen Austin selling, but like in this period, in this red hot period, and for it to be Shawn Michaels as well, it just, something about it feels wrong, doesn't it? But like, it hits that emotional part of your brain too that makes you want to see Steve get that revenge. So yeah, I'm sure it was maybe an easy conversation with Shawn, but probably a tough one with Steve to convince him this was the way forward, because with him, he's got eyes in every side of his bald head, hasn't he? Thinking like, where's the fix in here? How are they going to do me over? Like it's very much like, oh, I'm definitely beating you at WrestleMania though, still, right? I think that's still in the air too, isn't it? So yeah, makes for an interesting juxtaposition.
I always think like Austin just gets like week after week after week, he understands which catchphrases pop. But then whenever he says something like Steve Austin's time has come, it's almost like he's telling Vince McMahon on headset, isn't he? He's like saying, don't forget my time has come. Yeah, like there's a real impressive anxiety they play with because of what we know about Shawn Michaels' political power more than like what story's going on. And to that point, this is a story about Steve Austin's rise, but it can't happen without Shawn Michaels' fall. And a big part of that will come at WrestleMania 14. And let's see how we get there. Because earlier that very same night, my God, were they stacking these Raws, by the way, at this time. Earlier that night, DX kind of come out. Well, DX don't come out to the ring. Vince McMahon comes out to the ring, I should say, to booze. Like not a warm welcome in Cleveland, the commentators say. And he says, well, you know what I'm here to do tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, unquestionably, the baddest man on the planet, Iron Mike Tyson. Here comes Iron Mike Tyson again, his first appearance on Raw since the shoving match with Austin. A lot more casual this week. WWF Attitude Era t-shirt. He's got his hat and his shades on. He's a bit more settled in this world now, and they know that the press aren't going to be quite as hot on this one as they were on the next one. So you almost sense that this is a bit more like a laid-back version of that everything on the line segment that we covered on the last Housekeeping. And it's been announced at the press conference, obviously, that Mike Tyson will be the enforcer for the main event. So that's now, that cat's out the bag. And Vince asks Tyson, he says, are you going to be the enforcer or is Stone Cold going to enforce the laws? There's a lot more booze. And Vince sort of gently bollocks the crowd and says, can we have some respect, please? And he's just, each week, he's kind of building that part a little bit. Vince asks Mike Tyson who he thinks is going to win the match. But before Tyson can answer, DX's music hits and down they come. Shawn Michaels just snatches the microphone off Vince McMahon and shoves him away. And he says, even more croakily than my voice, with eyes even redder than mine when I'm full of cold. I wonder why. When the sunglasses come off, he says, Mike Tyson, my name is not Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've not come out here to disrespect you. That's not DX's style. I mean, that's rich. Our style is to call people out face to face. And Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet, well, my name's the Heartbreak Kid, the WWF champion. And I am calling your ass out right here, right now, boy. And the fans swell. And Mike Tyson just leans in and says, you want to do it? Let's do it right now. And all of a sudden, they're going to have a fight. It feels like it's happening again to Vince McMahon. He's like, this can't keep happening. My wrestlers keep fighting Mike Tyson. So that this time, however, the ring clears and Vince realizes, like, it's not going to go like it did last time. I can't sort of affect any change. What's going to happen is going to happen. All of a sudden, it's just Shawn. It's just Tyson. There's finger pointing. There's everything. Shawn looks like he might hit him at one point. He kind of grabs Tyson by the collar to try and put a little bit of distance between them. But then he pulls the shirt. And oh my God, the WWF Attitude shirt comes away to reveal a D-Generation X one underneath it. Tyson does the big crotch chop that he could never do. He's absolutely buzzing. He's like doing his crotch chops with his arms. He's pulling his t-shirt out to make it look like a pair of tits because it's got the DX logo through the middle. They all do this massive crotch chop in Vince McMahon's face. Shawn's got this massive grin on. He says, for all of you that don't know, the Heartbreak Kid is the man who runs this show. Vince McMahon, just again, for like the second Mike Tyson appearance in the row, just looks like his whole life's been ruined by this. But Jim Ross on commentary does note, well, there's no possible way that Tyson can be fair and objective. Jerry Lawler gleefully adds that Vince will now be paying all those millions of dollars to a member of the Generation X. And then Shawn Michaels, with the glassiest, haziest expression, catches the hard camera and holds the belt up and just mouths, this is staying right here. And if you're Steve Austin, wouldn't you be paranoid too?
It's very The Simpsons, isn't it? It could happen to you.
You.
Like, so much there. Like, it's Tyson. Again, he probably could have gone to any school up and down, maybe America, but I feel like especially in the UK, and most of the kids could have taught him, there's a bit of wrist movement needed, mate, when you do it. He never could quite like the bendy arms, right? But like, I remember watching this, and I don't know what it was. I wasn't like tuned in to the extent of knowing what was coming. But I kind of felt like what was coming. Like they were faking fighting so much, and then Shawn grabs his shirt, and you can maybe it's like seeing too much WCW and a lot of that happening. Pulling one t-shirt off to reveal another color NWO t-shirt, like seeing a lot of that. Like I knew the fix was in, so like I was popping in my living room, made up that Mike Tyson was joining DX. But it's funny watching it now as an adult, because like now as an adult, I can stare at it. It's like I actually feel like Shawn Michaels is a little bit bigger than Mike Tyson, and I feel like you said there about like Tyson coming out like looking quite dressed down and quite relaxed. It's casual Friday type of thing. I just could imagine Vince looking up and down going, that's the baddest man on the planet, really. Because like it feels like we've gone through like this whole era of like Shawn and Brett were the small guys, and like they were never big enough to be the top guy. And I think it's fucking Mike Tyson right there. They're about the same height and weight, really, aren't they? Like when you put things together. So yeah, I'm sure Vince is thinking that. I'm sure Shawn is thinking that as well. But it was genuinely shocking at the time. It wasn't particularly believable, was it? It wasn't particularly like Mike Tyson doesn't really fit with these lads. I can't imagine what they're chatting about backstage, but like as a mechanic, because there's a few weeks to go to WrestleMania, to just do something with Mike Tyson and have it on TV and keep that interest there, I think it does make sense, and obviously leads to the big payoff as well.
Yeah, I think if we were, if this was happening in 2026 and we're just doing our regular, grapple and what culture duties, and we're reviewing this week on week, the Austin Tyson one would be the thing we'd be doing backflips over because it feels so real. There is absolutely no illusion that Tyson is part of this world now, and it can still be fun, but the element of reality is gone. It's like you're in the storyline universe now, and that's all right, because I actually personally believe that characters, the reality is only kind of fun at the beginning. You actually want them. I used to say this about CM Punk in WWE. Remember when he first come out and there was all these nods and winks to like, and what I did in the locker room in that place over there, crickets. But what I really want to do is win the WWE title. Big gasps and reactions. It's like, it's actually better to be in the fiction than to sort of live in the real world for too long. They got the Sports Center moment, they got the press conference and all that, and now it's like, they're kind of having fun now, aren't they? They're kind of Mike Tyson's at work every week and they can fart about. There's something like almost playful about it now, isn't there?
Definitely, and not just with him feeling like he does feel a bit Make-A-Wish, doesn't he? He's just happy to be there. It's like I watched back like the Tyson and Austin.
Isn't he? He's like, I'm a wrestler.
He does. I'm wearing a wrestling t-shirt. Look at me. I was Shawn Michaels smile his fucking face off. Like, but it's like the Tyson and Austin segment. I actually watched that back after our podcast, and like, fucking Tyson's crew got like Austin hats on and stuff, and like he's just clearly made up to be in a ring with Cold Stone Steve Austin. Like he's just so fucking happy to be there. So you have got to channel that somewhere, and at a point it has got to become like very pro wrestling. But even that, like we said at the time, I think the fact that Stone Cold Steve Austin was squaring up to Mike Tyson, I mean, real life rules, like Mike Tyson wins that, doesn't he? But in the pro wrestling world, then it's a bit more of an interesting concept, and this is, it's more down that line. If we were reviewing it week to week, it might be the type of thing I would be on Grapple going, what the fuck are they doing? But like seeing it from the bird's eye and where they're going, like it is. What else do you do? Just does Tyson walk out with Vince McMahon and shake hands and kiss babies every week? Like really isn't anything there, is there?
Well, you say there's nothing there, and that kind of applies to the start of the March 9th edition of Raw. You know how last year we talked about how once Austin was done with Owen and moving on to other things, it really did feel like Owen was this character from a different timeline, and it was so weird how Austin was still in a feud with Owen Hart, but it didn't really feel that way. Well, he comes out and the commentators speculate that Steve Austin looks mad. He must be angry with DX. He must be angry with Mike Tyson. But no, he's not raging with either of those. He's raging with Vince McMahon. It's not that Tyson's joined DX. It's not that he's worried about eating another super kick. What he's angry about is that Vince McMahon called Mike Tyson unquestionably the baddest man on the planet. He insists that they put the footage on the Titantron, and he tells the fans, listen again, unquestionably the baddest man on the planet. And Austin says, I don't know about you, but like that's a slap in my face. Like if you think that's if you think that that's a slap in my face, give me a hell yeah, massive hell yeah. So Austin says, right, I'm going to get a steel chair and I'm going to sit in this ring for 2 hours if I have to. Does anybody have a cold beer for Stone Cold Steve Austin? And he takes Raw hostage. Jim Ross is already pleading for Steve not to do anything stupid this close to WrestleMania. Out come Gerald Briscoe and Jack Lanza. So Austin just threatens to deck them if they get in the ring. You think Briscoe would listen to that? He says, I don't know what you're out here for. It's not you I want. It's Vince. Go and get Vince. Still huge Austin chants. Nobody's bored by watching a man sit in the ring and cut promos on Stooges. Next out is SGT Slaughter. Austin thinks, what, are you ribbing me? Like, go and get me Vince. And that's an order, jackass. And we cut backstage to like a bit of a harassed and stressed looking Vince McMahon. He's got some of his advisors around him. Austin promises right before we go to commercial that if Vince, you don't come out here, I'll just come back and I'll deck everybody until I find you. So we come back from the break and Gerald Briscoe's reasoning with Vince McMahon, and Vince is trying to kind of be the bigger man and not respond to Steve Austin. Jim Ross calls it a hostage situation. Pat Patterson is the next out, and this time he's got a bunch of security. Austin calls Patterson Pops. There's a great line where Kevin Kelly on commentary, just to casually kind of try and, it's very WCW under Eric Bischoff, this, just one little throwaway line. He's like, I'm looking at my sheet, man, we're heavy as hell. And what we now know that means in production terms is we're running over time, doesn't it? The show's heavy. And that's just little like work shoot line that like things are, like they won't say things as, oh, this is not on the format, but for those that care, the little illusions, you know? And then Austin calls Vince a chicken, and that's the thing that finally challenges Vince's ego, and out he comes. He's in a beige gingham suit with a black shirt as he experiments with these new first Vince McMahon looks, I guess. Austin is fuming. He says, Vince, you've insulted me for the last time. You call Mike Tyson the baddest man on the planet. You're trying to provoke me. And Vince is just like, Mr. Austin, it's a figure of speech. And Austin's like, well, I got my own figure of speech. He just flips the bird right in his face straight away. Vince's face is a picture here. Like, they are building moments, defining images that display their chemistry that will last a lifetime. This is a moving, living gallery of like wrestling history in front of your face with every sort of new face they're pulling. Austin says that, to be honest, Vince, you're just as bad as Shawn Michaels. Do you want me to be the WWF champion? And then Vince is kind of hesitant, and Austin throws it to the crowd and says, look, do you want Steve Austin to be the champion? Give me a hell yeah, hell yeah. The crowd do. And Vince is like, well, there you go. You heard them. They want you to be the champion. And that's not enough for Austin. He knows that Vince is ducking the question. Well, it says, if you're not going to answer my question, why don't you hit me? Hit me right there. And like Vince, just for a second, you can see the thought crosses his mind, followed by the consequences of this disastrous action if he takes it. Not just from getting his ass kicked by Steve Austin, but like the corporate catastrophe it would be to like punch his WrestleMania #1 contender at this point. Austin just negs him more. He says, what, you yellow bastard. You're not going to hit me. He just tears a strip off that gingham suit jacket. The pocket is just hanging out. Like he says,
look like a shoe.
It did. He says, well, what are you going to do then? You're going to fire Stone Cold? Like, Austin is right in Vince's face at this point, and Vince says, you'll pay for this, Steve. And asks the fans again, do you want me to give Vince McMahon an ass whooping? Hell yeah. Austin decides to show mercy to Vince, counts to 10 to get him out the ring, and Austin says, I know what's going on here. This is one big plan against me. I'm going to beat up Triple H later on tonight. Shawn Michaels isn't here, but at WrestleMania, I'm not going to ask him to lay down. I don't need him to lay down. I'll kick his ass until he's down, because that belt is coming home with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yet again, the work and the shoot feel like they're blending together. Later on in that night, we get a backstage interview with Mike Tyson, presumably taped after last week's show, where Tyson called the Rumble a dream come true. But when Steve Austin was treating him disrespectfully the night after, he couldn't take that, and he couldn't take that lying down. He's the former and future heavyweight champion of the world, and he was appalled by the fair's all about winning, and then he just storms off. And then last but not least, later on in the show, Steve Austin has been booted out of the building because of the hostage situation, so he's lost his match with Triple H. Don't worry. If in doubt, in 1998, who'd you get to replace one of your biggest stars? Savio Vega. So he's out having a replacement match with Triple H where they're kind of circling, but before the match can even get started proper, all the talk of Steve Austin earlier in the night, here he comes. He runs through the security. There's just stunners everywhere. One for Savio. Triple H ducks out the way, and then he turns around, and Shawn Michaels is in the building after all. Wham! It's another sweet chin music. And then you see Shawn lining up Steve Austin for an absolutely wicked chair shot as Raw goes off the air. In the end, he doesn't hit him. It's just like sort of Austin chasing DX off, and the fans are sent home happy. But for the second week in a row, not only has Shawn drilled Austin in the air, that chrome dome egg head of his, but he's also kind of outsmarted the Rattlesnake as well. This is the first time we're seeing that this character of Steve Austin might not have every single answer the way he thinks he does.
And I feel like the Vince and Austin, we're going to get into it like the other segments we're going to get into, but like the Vince and Austin story doesn't really exist in the same universe as the Austin and Shawn story, does it? But they're doing a good job of weaving them in together a little bit and, you know, doing that Vince character development, which, as you say there, he's like, to me, like immediately, I thought, you know, Dick Vernon, like that character actor who did, he's the principal in like Ferris Bueller a bit. No, it's not Ferris Bueller, it's Breakfast Club. And he plays that same dickhead character in like every 80s film. I think he's in Die Hard as well, isn't he? Like exactly the same beige suit. But I think like Vince's DVD or VHS collection probably got that far at that point in 1998. But you know, popped black collar, everything about it just perfectly fits. And he's very much even more so than when we talked about it on the last Housekeeping, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna wear a loud suit. I'm gonna be a bit stuffy, and I'm gonna lean into like people not liking me. Like it's becoming a character here, isn't it? Add in the Stooges. Like I feel like as well, we were one step away from having like Lanza being like Blackjack fucking Lanza being one of the two Stooges, just because they probably thought it was funny to send Pat Patterson out on his own with a bunch of like, you know, bail loan security guards, and thought maybe that joke was worth the squeeze. Like we were that close. Luckily they do figure it out, but it's like very all of it. Like even like I love that I'm glad you mentioned it, that shot of Vince just backstage, like worried. Like, because how often does that happen? We talk about people being backstage, or we talk about people not being in the venue, but actually getting that view of it, and he literally is just cowering behind the fucking Titantron. Like it's just like it's proper. They've thought, you know, he's very much, you know, digging his teeth into like this character. They're thinking through, like, you know, what, you know, who's around them, who are like the, you know, the Stooges. How would he actually be reacting to this? Like, it's almost like it's fiction, but they're bleeding like almost the reality of what this Vince McMahon character would actually be versus how he's been presented. And like, we're getting closer and closer to the line, which obviously comes in the following weeks. But it's actually the most interesting part of it, I think, for me.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, let's jump right in now, because this was a segment that may as well have happened yesterday. My memory is so clear of it. My memory, not just of the segment I'm about to recap, but of my feeling of like getting me like onto Austin's back of like the fix is in and we need to do something about this. Because Kevin Kelly introduces Vince McMahon, who again gets a chorus of boos. Those are getting louder every week. And he's trying to maintain his decorum, but he says Steve Austin was very unprofessional because of what happened last week. We get the recap, obviously. And Vince flags up. He says, look, like, I don't like Mr. Austin's language. There's a cut at this point to an Austin versus McMahon sign in the crowd, and it's nice that like a few people are up on what the real sort of story happening.
WrestleMania main event is.
You know, he says, and this was telling. Says, and you know, obviously a lot's gone down with Mike Tyson, but I've got to praise Mr. Michaels' mental acumen for bringing him into to DX. As if like somehow that's forgivable compared to what Austin's doing, and in your brain, that's the first time you go, hang on, this is the guy that like drinks Jack Daniels and gets his dick and balls out on TV, and you hate Steve Austin more. Like that's like that in itself is like a storyline reveal, isn't it? That this guy's a hypocrite and he's taken against Steve Austin. The face doesn't fit, and now you realize you can't fool me with your bullshit anymore. Your motivation is not on the up and up. You know, it's really lovely little details like that. Like praising Shawn for bringing Tyson in. Like last week you said Austin ruined it.
Like it works because it doesn't work, doesn't it? Because again, watching this as a kid, I was thinking that, like, but he wants Shawn, like him, who points at his dick and doesn't turn up for work and is like all the same thing Steve Austin is. But you're right, the worst villains and the people. Just thinking about the people you don't like in your real life. You know, at times when you're up against these people, they're not consistent, are they? They are hypocrites. They do, you know, give you one reason why they're doing something, and then the actual reason is somewhere hidden below. That's human beings, isn't it? So it's like it's not perfect. In a perfect world, he'd have some kind of corporate champion there, Michael. I don't know where he might find one of those, but maybe we'll get there at some point. But like situationally, the fact that he goes with him and the fact that it's almost not justifiable, it kind of adds to the heat, doesn't it? Adds to the story, and it adds to Steve Austin's gripe.
Kevin Kelly says, almost out of pocket, really, so why didn't you hit Austin? And Vince got, what? Like, just looks genuinely shocked at the line of questioning. And then he kind of gets a bit of a grin across his face and says, well, Kevin, I was saving the main event of WrestleMania. How could Mr. Austin compete against Shawn Michaels with a broken jaw? More booze at this point. Vince is getting in his bag a little bit. All the Memphis heel from a few years ago seems to be coming out to the surface for the first time. He says, look, it wouldn't look good for pay-per-view if I had taken Austin down. So Kevin Kelly almost is in disbelief at this answer. So he kind of pushes the different agenda. He says, Austin asked you last week and you never actually answered. Do you want Austin to win or not? And Vince is like, it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the fans think. And Kevin Kelly asks again. And Vince says, look, if he can be molded, it can be great. Sure. It could be a public relations nightmare for Mr. Austin to win the title. And then Kevin Kelly says, right, I want the truth. Like, give me the truth. And Vince says, I don't think the fans, I don't think Mr. Austin or anybody else can handle the truth. And Kevin Kelly just loses his patience. Mr. McMahon, answer the question, yes or no. And McMahon takes a pause, takes a second. Fine. It's not just a no. It's an oh, hell no. Huge boos rain down. Vince goes to leave. And then he just stops, turns around, politely requests the microphone back and just says, Mr. Austin, that's the bottom line because Vince McMahon said so. I thank you very much. And you're just like, oh, shit. Oh, God, how's Steve going to do this? Like, they have done it. They have created that seemingly... this is like when these talk about the immovable object and the irresistible force, you imagine like big, meaty lads rushing into each other. This is that of a different kind, doesn't it? Something has to give. How can the outcome you want actually happen?
Yeah, this is job done for me. This is like, all right, he's Mr. McMahon now. We're done. And obviously there's more development to come, like in the other weeks and, post-Mania and all of that stuff. But like, that's it. And I think like the thing they tap into here, it's the hubris side of it, isn't it? Like, and again, unfortunately, over the next year of like us covering these housekeepings, we're going to be praising Vince McMahon, and or we should always be clear, we're never praising the human being or all of the other things that surround that we've both been vocal about on our podcasts at present day. But like talking about as a performer here, that real life person does sneak in too, like the hubris. Like that has never been a part of how Vince McMahon has been presented on TV. Like Vince McMahon, like the happy clappy commentator who you thought was wearing a wig and didn't know was that jacked. Like you would never believe thought he could actually fight one of the wrestlers. Like and like that never, is ever. Even true like up until this point, like the way he presented him and the fact that he'd been annoyed by what Austin's doing, you still wouldn't take that next step. But like the actual Vince McMahon human being probably would think that, wouldn't he? And I think taking, unfortunately, that little bit of reality and adding it to this character, it's almost like a eureka moment. It's almost like for the people watching at home, whoa, this is definitely not the person I thought it was this entire time. Also, he's wrong. And again, another reason to hate him. Obviously, Steve Austin will beat him up. But like, what a great, unlikable element of the character or Vince McMahon's character to add to it. I feel like that was maybe the missing piece all along in like this build, and it's like, yeah, he is fully formed now, Mr. McMahon.
It's weird, isn't it? Because like as a commentator, you make that great point about not knowing he was jacked. He wasn't quite your granddad, but age profile wise, he was like your dad. He was like somebody your dad worked with who was a little bit older and quite fun. Who like you'd see at like Christmas parties and stuff. You only kind of thought of him as that type of figure, and then all of a sudden, like it's weird because the Mr. McMahon character looks physically older because he's a lot more weathered by his jobs as opposed to like nice and polished and makeup. But he's a younger man in the way that he speaks all of a sudden, isn't he? Because he's getting in the muck a bit with all the stuff all of a sudden. And that the commentator Vince would have never got in the muck that way. Like the closest he got was getting shoved down by Brett before he got his first stunner. And this is just like, he's like beyond the muscles that we know, and we're going to see them shortly underneath this jacket. He has, like, he's changed shape, hasn't he? His hair has changed shape. It's like, it's funny how wrestling does that. Your perception actually appears on their faces, and you never see them the same again, do you?
It's so anti-Vince as well. Like, you would think he'd be want to show it off this entire time. Maybe he didn't realize those bulky 80s and 90s suits were actually hiding what was beneath as well. But, like, it's when he wants to make this change, it's another layer you can add, isn't it? Like, you're right,
Yeah.
everything about it is different because really, it's still a fictional version of Vince McMahon, but this is quote unquote the real Vince McMahon that we're seeing on TV.
So here we go. March 23rd, the go-home edition of Monday Night Raw for WrestleMania 14. They do a bit of symmetry by using Kevin Kelly to come out to introduce Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's in his DTA shirt. Like, every shirt's different and every shirt's iconic at this point. Austin shuts Kevin Kelly up before he can even ask the questions. He says, look, we know what we're here for. Like, I'm here to respond to what Vince McMahon said. I won't be molded. I can't be broken. I'll do what I want and can't nobody stop me. I want Shawn in the ring at WrestleMania. All the respect in the world for Shawn as a wrestler. It's going to be the toughest match of my life, but I'm leaving with the WWF title. Kevin Kelly says DX are on the way to the building in full force. Austin immediately turns that back on Kevin Kelly, says, am I not in full force? He threatens to snap Kevin Kelly's neck, but he says, I'm going to let you off, Kevin. I'm going to drink some Steve Weisers, and I'm just going to wait for DX. Everything gets a pop. But here comes SGT Slaughter, who says, well, Austin, I'm afraid you don't have the night off. You're going to wrestle on Raw. And Austin says who? And then SGT says Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWF, who can't be here tonight, but sent me to send the message, you'll face Rocky Maivia. Slaughter says if Austin doesn't wrestle The Rock, he'll lose his Mania title shot. And Austin says, well, I always said I was going to wrestle him. That's fine. I feel quite insulted. Wham! Stunner. Press-ups. Austin versus the officials carries on again. Later on in that show, it is Austin versus The Rock, which, as you can imagine, ends in a schmoz. But the point is clear. He will not change in any way en route to becoming WWF champion. And speaking about Austin's route to becoming WWF champion, we should just talk about what happens when DX arrive in full force later on this Raw, because it's later sort of in the middle of the show, because the show ends with Austin and Rock. And they open up the war zone. Triple H recaps how he got his European title back off Owen Hart, which just involved basically Owen picking up an injury, China smashing him with a bat, and then like being forced to go ahead with the match anyway. They've made Owen look a dick for the millionth time. So now that WrestleMania match is going to be for the title that Hunter owns rather than the one that Owen has been able to hold on to for like a month or something. Tyson's just there bouncing around. He's having a whale of a time just being in DX. Really uncomfortable segment. I should point out, by the way, I'm going to use my gravelly voice as an example, but Shawn is slurring all the way through this. He's in a terrible way in this promo. He has the cameraman film a woman that's in a homemade DX shirt in the front row. And then he just, out of nowhere, just says, for what it's worth, to all you really attractive women out there, she's a skank, and we realize that. And he's just like, you're a bad guy, man. Like, you're not a good person. Shawn says how the last 3 weeks, all I've done is listen to Austin and Vince have a pinch fight, like a couple of chicks smacking each other around. Vince, you said you didn't want Austin to be champion. Thanks for your support, pal, but I don't need another stinking jockstrap in my drawer. So neither Steve or me give a rat's ass what you think. Michaels tells Austin, you need to forget about Vince. The only way that you'll achieve a dream that you've had for 8 years is by beating me. 8 years? Well, hang on. We're the exact same age, and I've been here the longest. I'm the top dog. Austin, I'm giving you one chance. But remember this, you got to beat the greatest WWF champion of all time. And there's a small problem with Mike Tyson being on the take, and he's just a big crotch up there. Like, he's all still really busy. And then we get, like, what a way to go out for the icon, the showstopper, the main event. Another just all-time bit of back and forth here while Triple H has his proper role as a background player doing nothing else. It's Michaels and Tyson hard into the camera, and Shawn says, Mike, what's going to happen if Stone Cold Steve Austin gets in your way? And Mike Tyson just gleefully replies, I'm going to knock him out cold. And he just stops short of his F word. Like, Shawn's giggling away at that. And he says, and Mike, at WrestleMania, who will come out of the WWF? Who will come out of WrestleMania as the WWF champion? And Tyson says, you will, Heartbreak. And at WrestleMania, who will still be the baddest man on the planet? I will, Heartbreak. And then Michaels basically nicks the entire Outlaws spiel about, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, stumbles over his last words, says DX will rule the WWF forever. But you and I, Benno, were probably doing the same thing. You were looking in those glassy glazed over eyes for Shawn Michaels' last ever words on Monday Night Raw of his original run as a wrestler. This is it.
It's honestly, even now that it's actually happened, and we talked about it on No Way Out, knowing it was coming doesn't feel real. I mean, a bit of long 30. I love the way he does rip into Steve Austin for going on about 8 years, because as men of a certain age now, mate, we know that 8 years is literally nothing. 8 years is yesterday. 2018, remember that? It was 2 weeks ago. That's normal. But I love that utilization of time there as well. But I do feel like there's something deeper there that he's talking in those types of terms. It's I guess it's to jump ahead, but obviously WrestleMania the night after, you can see it in like you said there about the promo where he feels the week after, he feels like he's not in a good place, but he also feels like the end is nigh, and it's almost like he's got a bath, he's cleaned himself up, he's had a full shave, he's tied his hair back, he's trying to take this seriously, he's trying to land this go home promo, mirror image on the pay-per-view at WrestleMania, and he's walking out ready to do business, looking jacked, to be fair, looking good.
Who's that fucking man?
He's fucking so serious and angry, isn't he? He's
amazing.
No fucking around. Little bit of pointing to his dick, but not much pointing to his dick, Loves that the DX band is there and all that stuff, but there's just a layer underneath it that you also get in this promo that I think he thinks the end is here. And I'm still I'm a Shawn guy, I love him as much as you do. That I do have that niggling doubt that, it was really his back and it wasn't everything else catching up with him and all the other, reasons. Maybe he did have a sore back to an extent, but, did that really mean that he couldn't wrestle till 2002 when magically he could wrestle again and it was absolutely no problem anymore? And there is, a level of Shawnness to it, but whatever the reason, he knows, whatever the reason, he knows he's going out on his back, he's putting over the new babyface, and who knows when he's come back. And it does, like I say, he's messed up, and that is a dark element to it, but I think, I'm not saying it adds to the overall darkness, but that's the picture. That's who he is at this point. You don't really know it watching it at the time, but he's the roadblock for Steve Austin. You're just assuming you're going to see him on Raw the next week, mate, but watching it older, we know very different, mate, but it's written all over his face, and it's just a weird way to kind of end the show run, isn't it? After everything that we've been through, it's just, this weird kind of guy who probably does need the time off.
He's not really got a smile to lose anymore, is he? Because he's just not a smiling man anymore. You can't, it's not a sort of, you can't really imagine the space in which you lose your growl, but that's all Shawn had left was his growl, and he's lost that. The bass and the timbre in his voice is gone, hasn't it?
Yeah, he doesn't even lean on Triple H too much here. He's leaning on Tyson, isn't he? He's he's using that to kind of get him through this promo that maybe part of him doesn't want to cut. To be honest, I wanted them to send Kevin Kelly out there to ask him the real questions because he gets to the bottom of things. Apparently, he's this gorilla interview that he used once and never used again for such a role. But I want to know what's beneath it. I want to know more about it. And and I'm sure at the time as well. Even if you were aware of the rumors, I was reading a couple of reserves, saying that he was going to be taking time off. You wouldn't have believed it though, would you? You would have yeah. Sean's trying to get out of losing to Steve. He doesn't want to be around while he's doing a Brett. He doesn't want to be around while Steve's champion. He'll be back by SummerSlam. He'll be back by Survivor Series. And that's the problem here as well, to give people a fast forward to future Benno and Hamfletts. It will be every single pay-per-view now. Young Benno is watching them going, well, this is going to be Shawn, isn't it? Sean's clearly going to be this mystery man. Sean's clearly going to be in this particular Deadly Game tournament that's coming later in the year. Yep. This Raw's surely going to end with Shawn Michaels coming out and joining DX and super kicking everyone. But we've at least got that, mate, so the memory will stay alive. But it's probably for the best too, dare I say. We said it. Brett needed to get out the way for us to move into this new nation, this new generation 2.0, and Shawn does too. Yeah.
The last kind of, the last pillar, I guess, of that era is finally gone. But WWF very much, well, some might say that. But, the Fed very much don't let the door hit your arse on the way out, because we go to the March 30th edition of Raw, and it starts with Vince McMahon following a video package of Austin's success. He's won the WWF title at WrestleMania.
Best mates for Mike Tyson now. Do you remember that, by the way, when that happened? Did you get the full page spread that was in the papers the next day? I remember that was another indication that the boom had properly started. Me nan and granddad saying, I hope it wasn't the Sun, I really hope it wasn't. And it was the Daily Mirror or something like that, a double page, Mike Tyson holding up Steve Austin's arm with his DX t-shirt still on because he was scared of it showing off his tits. I put that on my wall. But it, again, the Raw segment, felt like gigantic news.
Massive. Nobody minds that the count was too fast and it was all a bit off, and you were genuinely worried that they might try and take the belt off Steve the next night on Raw, because it was like, hang on, you screwed him here like that.
Very Nick Patrick, wasn't it?
Oh, God, yeah. Less said about him, the better today, especially. So out comes Vince, and we've talked about how he was dressed, and it's like he's tried to turn the clock back here, and we're going to get to why that is in a second. He's in like a very dapper blue suit, shirt, tie, all the way to the top, looking like his smartest, looking his best, and he's got a fucking massive, brand new blue leather strap WWF World Heavyweight title over his shoulder. There's massive Steve Austin chants, as you can imagine. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, he's got it in his head that the microphone isn't working, which is a weird start to things. And you can see the real Vince comes out and he gets a bit cross and he gets handed a working one. And he finally says, I am pleased to present to you the new WWF champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's an epic pop, as you can imagine. It's the bit of a sort of collector's item, this. It's the only entrance Steve Austin makes holding the Winged Eagle belt as the world champion, because he takes one look at it. He sees the belt on Vince's shoulder. He throws the Winged Eagle on Vince's foot. He takes the new blue belt, and that's it. There he is. Big. Was it Big Eagle? The belt collectors call this one.
I think so. Yeah.
Very much.
I don't like the blue. I've got to say, the blue strap not for me.
Well, the blue strap. The trivia note, isn't it, is that the blue strap was also too small, and the eagle's wings was sharpened to a point that like Austin kept cutting his face and shoulder on the belt when he held it. So it all had to get like shaved down, and the strap got changed and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's not around forever.
I don't want to offend a certain good friend and fellow podcaster when I say this, but when Benno and I don't want to speak for you either, Benno, when we talk about playground fans of Steve Austin and playground fans of DX and things like that, I think those same fans favour this world title over the proper Winged Eagle. I like it, but I can never love it as much. You know what I mean?
No, and we got that when we did like the tier list on Grapple. Like, I was shocked by that because like I must wish the Winged Eagle carried on and like it would have suited Steve going forward. I loved that he was holding it up, after beating Shawn. It felt like he'd achieved something. It always felt like jarring, didn't it? Wrestlers you didn't imagine like having that belt on the shoulder or around the waist, and then all of a sudden it looking right. It looked right on everyone. It looked right if you were as tall as Sid. It looked right if you were an Undertaker. It looked right if you were Shawn or Brett. It looked right on Steve too. Like it almost like you'd achieve something just by having that physical belt. So yeah, I get it. We're in a new time, everything has to change. And like you say, the knobheads from school are tuning in now because they've heard about Austin and Tyson, but not right for me.
So interestingly, as Austin sort of goes to all four corners with his new belt, Jim Ross notes that he's going to defend the title at Unforgiven in your house, but strangely, we don't know who it's going to be against, but I'm sure we'll get to that. Vince McMahon has his best sort of smug grin on, and he says he wants to clear up any misunderstanding about that stupid little interview we did with Kevin Kelly before WrestleMania. The truth is, Mr. Austin, I'm proud of you winning the belt. I'm proud of you representing my company. Mr. Austin, together with my vision and your charisma, my mental prowess and your physical prowess, you might become the greatest champion of all time. Austin sort of kind of stops and thinks about this for a second. He says, Vince, I know you hate me, and that's fine because I hate you right back. You're not going to mold me. You're not going to break me. And like, Vince, you're right. Like, we're never putting over the real man here, but like, he's just so in this character already at this point. He's so incredible in his like portrayal of this. He says, for the record, Mr. Austin, hate is not a word that's in my vocabulary. I am incapable of hate. Vince says, and I especially don't hate you, Steve. I think you're a genuine human being. I think you're a swell guy. I love you. You're a hell of a guy. And then Austin sort of stops dead. What did you just say? Like, nothing? No. You're a swell guy. You're a hell of a guy. No. What? Go back a bit. What did you say? I love you, Steve. And Austin bursts out laughing at this. He said, okay, hotshot, I love you too. And like, they're properly having a laugh. Like, Vince can't show it, but like, Austin's got this like mile-wide grin on that, having a lot of fun with this. The crowd piss themselves along with it. And Austin says, look, I'm not going to do things your way, Vince. I'm going to kick ass, and I'm going to give you even more grey hairs in that head of yours. And Vince says, well, I thought you might say that. So we're going to have to do this the easy way or the hard way. So Austin asks for what the definition of those two ways are. Vince says the easy way is to learn to adapt. Just be flexible. The hard way is you wind up doing it my way anyway, so you don't need to think about that. Austin says, well, can I have 10 seconds to think about it? He rubs his head. He looks dead down the lens of the hard camera in another shot that just featured on every video package for about 5 years. He looks around at the crowd. Wham! Stunner to Vince McMahon. The first time since September at Madison Square Garden when he did it the last time. And he says, what you've seen is how to do things the hard way. And if you want me to continue doing things the hard way, give me a hell yeah. Massive hell yeah. Austin leaves the ring to just enormous cheers. Vince McMahon is surrounded by officials, just looks gutted while holding his neck. Like, they come back from the break and they recap Vince like struggling to even like walk to the back. Backstage, Gerald Briscoe is straightening Vince's tie as they even start to realize what those characters are supposed to do. It's not just about creating a Vince McMahon. They're now figuring out how to create his like arse kisses, and it's like everything has been thought through. This visual is great. Slaughter brings him over like a coffee and like blows on it a bit just to make sure that it's all right for Mr. McMahon. And like it's revealed that Vince has had no choice but to get Austin arrested. You see Austin being hauled out of a locker room, hands cuffed behind his back, and with his head and shoulders, he runs Vince into a locker. Vince crashes into that hard. It's like a proper scene backstage. Like Jim Ross is brilliant on the recap. It's like Steve Austin has just won the WWF title and he's going directly to jail. Like, to your point about like Vince no longer hiding what he felt last week, the man's had the title like 24 hours and he's going to spend his first night in prison. They're not even letting you have Austin's celebratory night. And in Vince's mind, it was the right thing to do. Austin gets forced into the back of a car, screaming and shouting all the way. And as the car pulls away, Vince's sort of like grimace of pain just turns into like a tiny little smile that maybe he's gotten what he wants. He comes back out to the ring to even louder boos this time. He's straightened up his tie. Slaughter and Briscoe flanking him, giving him sort of like attaboys and telling him everything's going to be all right. And Vince comes out and says, I've come out here because I feel like I owe you an explanation. I'm just asking for some respect. Perhaps a 24-hour cooling off period is exactly what Mr. Austin needs. Well, exactly what Mr. Austin needs. And then he just stops it again. It's always with that like extra pause where you think you could get out here, Vince, and kind of get away with it. But to your point, the hubris sort of, and he says, I guess he selected his choice. And damn it, I selected mine. Huge heat. And Vince kind of casually storms to the back like he's not just lit another fuse under Austin and all of his fans. It's like, it's home runs stacked on top of home runs here, this, isn't it?
It is. If I was saying like last week was like we've done it now, he's Vince McMahon, it's like the exclamation mark on the end of it, isn't it? Austin's now the champion. We're in a new era, and like you say, night one, he's already trying to stop him. Night one, it's become a little bit more cartoonish. That'll get into maybe where maybe I love the stuff before it than I love the stuff in it. Part of that's just be hating the people from school loving it, but that's an element of it tue. But part of the cartoon, you pointed it out there, like the world they're creating around them. Yeah, the fact that now like Sergeant Slaughter isn't really like anybody with any power or authority. He's basically not a person, as he's basically an NPC. Like, he just exists to just do Vince McMahon's bidding. Whereas like a year ago, they either tried to kayfabe fool you. No. He's actually the one in charge. All of that has been dropped. All of that is like there now to be the flies around the shit that is Vince McMahon. And really, we now do this merry dance, don't we? Like, for at least the bulk of the next year, it's Vince trying to get rid of Austin. Maybe that little bit of logic, and you're like going, but why would he want to? Like, has he not seen the numbers from WrestleMania last night? Does he not understand like how much this is helping business? Like, there is still that little part to it, but I guess it justifies why he doesn't go too far. And then it's Austin then comes out and stuns him, or Austin gets the better of him by the end. Like, this is, if all of the character work to build up to WrestleMania was getting everybody in position, this is now exactly the template for what they're pretty much going to do for every Raw now for the next year and a half.
I always sort of feel like, not that I have to defend the storyline, everybody loves the storyline, but to just go back to that Vince promo the few weeks before, that confirms something within this story that WWF never got right ever again. Think of all the times they basically did this storyline over again with a GM and a babyface and whatever. And to your point about like, well, why would you want to stop Steve Austin? He's obviously the money train that Steve Austin is. But Vince made it very clear from the very beginning. It wasn't all business, was it? It was personal. Like, he tries to pretend it's business, but he hates him. It's personal with Steve. And when you would have, like, I don't know, Eric Bischoff and John Cena 5 years later, what motivation has Eric Bischoff got to, like, not want massive ratings draw John Cena on his TV show? They never, like, remotely explore.
And every indie in the world has copied it since. Yeah, same thing.
It's like, I can't abide you, biggest star. It never actually works when you.
I don't like money.
Yeah, but like because they were so like quick to point out like that Vince is a hypocrite and he does not like this man, and he kind of hoped it would be a problem that would just go away, and now he's got to deal with it every single day, and he's almost like the facade versus what's actually happening in the feud.
Yeah,
I love it.
The power down record switched. He's got to go to work every day with this fucking employee he hates rather than the other way around. And there's very limited things he can do, but the things he can do, he's fucking gonna do them. Yeah, you've nailed it there. That's it.
Well, speaking of like other people on the roster and the other employees, we're just going to take a little diversion, but it'll kind of make sense towards the end. We've got a recap of what took place on the Raw after WrestleMania when Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, who had won the tag team titles in the dumpster match against the Outlaws, lost them back as a result of a steel cage match against the New Age Outlaws. More on that presently. But Foley comes out looking extremely sad. Cactus Jack, he's announced as, but he's looking very sad. He's got a steel chair with him, and he sits in the ring. And you actually see the clip of the two of them being carried out on stretchers, and fans are chanting Austin, Austin, Austin to come out and help, I guess. And Foley says, I've always had the comfort of knowing that everything that I did in this business was always worth the pain, including if scum like DX are trying to put him down. And that gets a pop, obviously calling DX scum. He says he hasn't talked to Terry Funk after last week, but I did leave a message on his answering machine, and he's not saying it to sound tough, but if Terry Funk had to fly home, the injuries must be bad. Mick Foley puts over Terry Funk, says how they were celebrating winning titles, and Funk told Cactus, he said, you know what, I think I'm ready to retire now that we've won these belts. And then Foley's face just turns us a little bit and says, well, Terry, we don't have those belts anymore, do we? And that's when the tone changes. He says, when I was knocked down and out, the announcer in the building over the PA just said something about Stone Cold Steve Austin, and fans started chanting his name. You know, it's funny. When I came here as Mankind, people said, why don't you be Cactus Jack? And then I came out in tie-dye and white boots, and they said, why don't you be Cactus Jack? Well, I gave you Cactus Jack, and I gave you every bit of energy I had. And when I lay there, you chanted someone else's name. And Jim Ross is like, Cactus sounds bitter. And Foley says, look, this is not a knock on Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm happy that he's the champion, and he's my friend. But what you people did to me and Terry Funk in this ring wasn't just disrespectful. It was goddamn disgusting. And I'm going to give you all a chance to make it up to me with a group apology. Fans obviously aren't that keen on that. And he kind of takes one last look around at them and he says, well, I can finally say for the first time after 13 years of blood, sweat and tears, it's just not worth it anymore. It's going to be a long time before you see Cactus Jack in the ring again. Jim Ross, is just in disbelief. He says, is he blaming Terry Funk and Steve Austin for this tag title loss? And Foley's in tears, and he takes the microphone one last time and he just says, I thought I meant something to you people. Goodbye. And he just sort of slumps up the aisle, basically. And I guess that was like a big moment for Mick Foley to be retiring the Cactus Jack promo and maybe leaving the WWF. But I just wanted to kind of bring that up now, because we've got loads of other business to attend to on the April 6th Raw, such as Vince McMahon coming out and asking for everybody's attention because they're all booing him once again. And he talks about how getting him arrested last week was the toughest decision of his life. But don't worry, fans, I had second thoughts. And because of my benevolence, Steve Austin was released. Nonetheless, he's learned his lesson. He's learned it the hard way. And no longer will Austin be considered a beer-swilling, hand-gesturing, blue-collar champion. Tonight could be the proudest moment of my career. Tonight, you'll see a new and improved Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'll guarantee it, or your money back. So this is very much them saying, stay tuned for the second hour. Stay tuned for the second hour. Vince has made a big money-back guarantee promise. Jim Ross doubts it, says there's no chance Vince can deliver this. But here he comes, top of the hour, as the Warzone starts. The music hits, the glass smashes, big pop. And out comes Stone Cold Steve Austin in a blue suit. He hits the ring. He notices his ties come a little bit untucked from his suit, so he tucks it back in. Vince He goes to pose, but he kind of checks with Vince, and Vince is like, oh, don't do that. So he just kind of puts one arm in the air, does it again in the four corners, and Jim Ross said, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Like, I thought under that suit there was the heart of a rattlesnake. And Vince is over the moon with this. I'm going to use your guy's phrase again. He's cheddared. He says, this is the first step in Steve Austin becoming the greatest champion in history. You could say one small step for Steve Austin, one giant leap for the World Wrestling Federation. There's massive Austin chants. People hate this. Steve Austin's holding the world title like Ric Flair holding the NWA title. He's not even dragging it across the bottom. He's got it all up like that.
He looks good in the suit, to be fair.
He does. He looks pretty sharp. Vince says a couple of things. We spoke about the attire head to toe, and I do appreciate the effort, mate, but where are the Gucci shoes? And Austin's like, look, they were pretty uncomfortable. They were pinching. So I was just a little bit comfortable in my wrestling boots. And it calms down. And all of a sudden, you notice he's got his wrestling boots on underneath the blue suit.
He's got his gym pumps on.
Yeah. It's like, well, all right, I guess. But what about this hat? And then you kind of realize that this whole time Austin's been in this suit, he's also wearing his Stone Cold Steve Austin baseball cap. And like, Vince just... Like it's nothing, just like sort of whips it off his head and throws it into the crowd. He says, come on, Steve, this doesn't go with the suit now, does it? Jim Ross notes correctly, by the way, that some fans just got an all-time collector's item there. And then he sort of does the formal unveiling. Well, he's just about right. The new and improved Stone Cold Steve Austin, booed out of the building. And Vince says, Steve, stay in chat. I'd love you to know, what was the moment that allowed you to accept reality and bend a little for the World Wrestling Federation? And Austin says, well, when you're sitting in a jail cell and you're thinking to yourself, Steve, what kind of choice do you have? I'm competing with Vince McMahon, an entrepreneur, a leader, a millionaire, and I'm just a redneck with a belt. I said, Steve, if you can beat Vince, give me a hell yeah. And the fans go, hell yeah. And he says, and I went, hell no. You got to understand that Vince McMahon has power. And if I could get one of these officers to take our picture to celebrate this moment, that'd just be great. So he kind of pulls out this disposable camera from his suit pocket. He hands it over to one of the police that have come out armed to protect Vince. They take a picture, the two of them, with the belt, big smile. And Steve says, Vince, you know the old Steve Austin? He'd probably tell you, take this camera and stick it up your ass. But the new Steve Austin says, take it and get the film developed. Because this is the last time you will ever see Steve Austin wearing this ridiculous suit. Off comes the tie, off comes the shirt. Jim Ross going, I knew it. Like, he takes everything off. He rips the shirt open. He points at the T-shirt because, yes, Benno, it's another brand new one. It says, hell yeah, on the back. He's getting those shirts sold. He's got his wrestling trites on, no knee pads and braces, so he looks naked, I thought. Makes me feel weird. But he says, DTA, Vince, don't trust anybody. If anybody's going to bow, it's going to be you. He slaps him in the bollocks so that Vince has no choice to bow. Austin takes a little picture, bit Hollywood Blondes like. He styles him up for the picture with a disposable camera of Vince just wrenching in pain. Says Stone Cold Steve Austin don't change for nobody, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. I feel like there are times in this housekeeping and many more to come, we're sounding like we're doing a DVD recap of like Raw's 150th best moments because that's all it is from here, isn't it? It's all they know how to do.
Yeah, and you know, we're in like, again, as much as like we're here now, and you know the chemistry and everything is set in the way it should be as far as the two characters go. We're also going to do campy segments like this, where like even be watching at the time we're going, well, very clearly he hasn't joined them. You're just waiting for the stunner, aren't you? And like really, like I don't think anyone's watching this buying it. I think everyone, that's the hook, isn't it? The stunner, or like for Steve to turn, or for like whatever, however they pay it off, for Steve to give Vince's just desserts, as they do here with the low blow instead. Like that is all you're waiting for, really, and everything else is just window dressing. But like you're totally right, like it is like Steve, and the hat is great. Well, again, the trunks with no, like you say, with no knee pads. Maybe there was like a version of this where he originally had knee pads on, and then it was hard to get the suit pants down to make it work. So he was like, we'll get rid of the knee pads. But it's not even just that he's in his trunks. It's that it's a T-shirt on his trunks. That also makes it look like he's just got out of bed and he looks a bit half naked, like a dad wandering around to go and have a piss at 4 in the morning. But like, it still works, doesn't it? Because he is one up in Vince McMahon. That is what we're doing here. And yeah, it is one of the ones that's remembered well for a reason.
Right, we're going to go to April 13th. That date might stick out to some people. I'll recap why that might be at the end of this little section. Steve Austin opens Monday Night Raw, and he calls out Vince to come out straight away, but he gives him his word. I'm not going to hit you, Vince. I just need you out here right now. Vince sort of like peers nervously behind the curtain at first, but he does come out. Patterson, Briscoe, and armed police in riot gear with Vince at this point. Austin says, look, Vince, you still haven't told me my Unforgiven opponent. And it's weird that this has been like this underlying detail throughout all the cartoon stuff, as you say. They keep talking about an Unforgiven pay-per-view match, and Austin's been given no time to prep. He's been given no clue of who his opponent is, anything like that. But Vince is coy, saying, I haven't made up my mind yet, but you'll know soon. You'll know. Austin says, well, what I know is that you hate me, Vince. You hate me. You hate the beers. You hate the swearing. You hate the way I dress. And Austin says, I can accept that you want somebody with polish to be your champion, somebody with class. You know, Vince, the more I think about it, I think you want yourself to be WWF champion. And Vince kind of doesn't outright deny it, but he kind of, where are you going with this, Steve? What are we doing here? And Austin says, I bet when you got this new belt made, you were walking around the house with it, posing, impressing your wife, saying, I'm the WWF champion. Austin says he knows as a promoter, it's great when a champion puts the belt on the line on TV. And Vince, I'm going to do just that. But there can be only one possible opponent, and it's Mr. Vince McMahon. Like, huge reaction to the idea that these fans are going to get this match tonight. Jim Ross immediately shitting himself on commentary at the whole company falling around to ashes as a result. Vince goes, no way. And Austin says, all right, how about I say this? We can do things the easy way or the hard way. So now Vince has to ask Austin, what's the difference between the two? And Austin says, well, the easy way is for you to pick a handpick an official, or come out yourself and fight for the title. And I'll be honest, I could beat you with one hand tied behind my back. And Vince says, well, what's the hard way, Mr. Austin? And Austin says, well, if you don't, I'll just grab a cameraman. We'll just come to your office afterwards and I'll beat your ass there anyway. So the fans are loving this. They know they're going to get the fight. And then he says, you and me have got to stop. At least the easy way, you get a shot at the title. And then his face to sort of take, maybe he quite likes the idea of that. And Austin says, well, I'll give you 30 minutes to decide. Don't turn over. I'll give you 30 minutes to decide. But if you try to leave, good luck, because your limo driver's been beaten up and it's got 4 flat tires. That gets a big reaction. Jim Ross thinks Austin's gone too far. But yeah, 30 minutes later, we're going to get our answer. And sure enough, we do. It actually falls. It just happens to fall when Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor are set to take on Pantera and Aguilar in a light heavyweight match. But Vince McMahon is walking out while the Brian Christopher music is playing. And he politely asks that the match not yet start because he wants some microphone time. And he's a bit sheepish. And he's like, for over 50 years, the WWF has been part of my heritage, from my grandfather and father to me. And I hope it continues to my son and daughter and grandchildren. The WWF has always been about honor and integrity. Quality is sorely lacking in our WWF champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He has none of these things. I know the decision will not sit well with those who preceded me, but sometimes a man's got to do what a man's got to do. And the audience are like, what? Will I fight Stone Cold Steve Austin in this very ring tonight? The answer is, oh, hell yeah. Jim Ross pleading. This is asinine. Please say this is not going to happen. Out come Patterson and Briscoe. We're like, boy, Vince, you did it. And before we get to the match itself, obviously throughout the show now, peppered with the training montages of Patterson and Briscoe getting them ready for the match. Like, they're setting up something massive here.
Yeah. It's very much, it reminds me of Shane McMahon with similar stuff with similar characters as well at some point in the future too. But I mean, you say that like they're obviously, they're not even desperate to know that people change the channel. They just know they're onto a winning formula and they know people won't change the channel, which they don't. Spoilers for what we're going to talk in a little bit as well. But like it's the perfect, it's just an extended version of the segments we've seen with Vince and Austin before, except now they're giving you a show long hook and something to draw you at the end. And also the great character development of like Vince McMahon believing, I probably could take him. And he's got these 2 fucking idiots. Yeah, you can take him, bitch. You can take him. It's sound. Go for it, mate. Don't worry about it. Like it is. It's perfect.
So we've done it. We've made it to the main event of the show. Jim Ross is still absolutely inconsolable. He jokes that he's just bought a house, and how's he going to pay his mortgage if this match goes ahead? They shoot Vince walking from the back, so he's like revealed the guns for the first time, but he's got like the towel over his like little vest top. Lawler loves it. He says, why not? Vince can be champion. Jim Ross with a great dig. He says, I don't know, King. I don't like the idea of a senior citizen being a champion in the World Wrestling Federation. Good in there. Vince is introduced as the voice of the World Wrestling Federation, the owner, the one and only Vince McMahon. And out he comes, hilariously massive shoulders and biceps, and absolutely nothing
I pissed
else.
myself
Looks
like
like
the first hour, sorry.
Looks like Triple H in 2002 when he comes back from his quad surgery. Slaughter and Briscoe with him. Shane McMahon in the most prominent acknowledged role as Vince's son, other than when he was like looking after Mike Tyson at the Royal Rumble. He rushes out. He's not like the Stooges. He doesn't want them to go through with it. He doesn't endorse this. Jerry Lawler is telling people, don't just watch this. Set your VCRs and record it. Like, I can't believe this is going to happen. Steve Austin hits the ring, and the commentators cannot put this over enough. This is happening. Austin versus McMahon. They come face to face in the middle. The crowd sort of swells again, and then wham! Vince McMahon drills Austin right in the face with a slap. The Stooges are in the ring. They're absolutely buzzing with it. And then they give Vince a microphone, and Vince has got a bit of swagger in his step now because of the slap, and he says, Mr. Austin, you said you could beat Vince McMahon with one hand tied behind your back. Austin kind of sneers at this, and he's like, you man of your word? And sure enough, the Stooges have bought like a bit of rope, like a bit of twine with them. And Austin's like, you know what? Fine. I want to kick your ass so much. Fine, do it. And then the ref is like about to tie Austin's left arm, and Vince's like, no, his right hand. That's his stunner arm. And he's like really pleased that he's thought through every bit of this plan. You're going to do
Good
it,
job, it's
Vince,
not in Mexico.
It's like, you're going to do it if you've got any guts. And Austin accepts it. Huge Austin chance anyway. Lawler laughs at Steve Austin for being a smart ass that's finally been caught out. Jim Ross just doesn't know how to take any of this. He's dreading the consequences. There's one point where there's I think it's like a kick his ass chant or something, and there's they both do. Austin says, "Shall I kick Vince's ass?" Give me a hell yeah. And then Austin replies, Vince is like, well, shall I kick Austin's ass? Everyone goes, hell no. Austin's still got this mile-wide grin on. They're obviously having a lot of fun out there. The bell is about to ring, and then it's like all of a sudden Vince realizes the shit he's in. Like his face kind of turns, and the Stooges have to massage his shoulders to try and keep him loose. He's like, oh God, I'm actually going to fight Austin. This is not good. Like the delay of ringing the bell is intoxicating at this point. And then Briscoe, as one last detail, puts a mouthpiece in Vince's mouth, and Vince puts his head up like he's a fighter ready to go. And then Dude Loves music hits, and all of a sudden Mick Foley in his Dude Love attire, full gimmick, walks out on the ramp, and he's like, "I'll have mercy. The dude doesn't feel a lot of love in here tonight." He says there's only one cat that can bring peace to the war zone, and that's Dude Love. Steve-O, you and I are as tight as two cats can be, but McMahon writes the checks around here, so I guess, Uncle Vinny, you were my McMahon man. And Vince and Austin both look Austin looks confused, Vince looks annoyed with this interruption, and Dude calls Austin the world's toughest son of a bitch, and says to Vince, Austin can put you on your AWS. And then as he says that, Vince pushes Dude Love over. And JR's like, what is going on here? Dude Love looks at Vince and says, you just made the world's biggest mistake. And he backs Vince into the corner. He's got the mandible claw up in the air. He's ready to put it on Vince. And then Austin, with the one hand tied behind his back, just wants to usher Dude out the way so he can get to Vince himself. And then all of a sudden, Dude Love turns the mandible claw on Stone Cold Steve Austin. He puts it on Austin long enough to keep Austin down. He does the little dance with his knees, which gets boos. Jim Ross has no clue what's going on. Vince McMahon gets shepherded out. Basically, Shane McMahon takes the opportunity to kind of hustle Vince out of there, but he's angry with everything that's played out. And then Dude Love takes the microphone and says, when Dude puts the cat down, the dude stays down. And all of a sudden, he just starts proper decking Austin, puts the boots to him, mandible claw. Vince is raging with Dude Love for stealing this spotlight. He swings for Dude Love. Dude goes back to battering Steve Austin anyway. There's a little bit of a delay, obviously, because of that. So Austin's able to actually fight back with one arm as they kind of like roll to the floor. But then at that point, Dude, because he's got the advantage, just runs Austin hard into the guardrail, into some cameramen, and like Raw goes off the air in just complete and total chaos. Until Tuesday morning, Benno, when there was no chaos at all. 4.6 to 4.2. The 83-week streak is over.
It's unbelievable. And obviously, go back in time a couple of weeks and go on the Grapple Patreon if you want to hear us talk about the very, very last time that WCW would beat the WWF. But it is monumental, it is. And it's funny because it's such a bait and switch, as you say, you know. Like, really, at the end of it, what do we get? We get, what's Foley doing here? You know, and you don't actually get the match you want. And again, they'll redo this formula later, but they don't care. They're laughing to the bank, aren't they? They beat the knobheads down south, and it's not like that audience doesn't come back next week as well. And it sets up what, you know, in play. Again, love looking at all of this. I love looking at, you know, Vince McMahon and his weird physique that he's kind of fat old man / muscly old man / he's just got a few different body types going on at this point as well. I don't think maybe his tan's not quite as good. Maybe that's what it sticks out to me. I love looking at the reality of Shane being out there. It's like, who's this bloke? Vince has a son. Like, not knowing that. And like, and they just slowly find, we used to referee. And then he becomes like a part of storylines. All of that, like, there's so much compelling going on leading to the Foley reveal. Which is to say, like, it's there to give you a pay-per-view main event that's not the strongest, you know? And we talked about it, like, creeping up to WrestleMania and keeping up to the reality of Austin winning the belt. We are in a company. Brett is gone. Shawn is gone. Undertaker's busy with his knobhead brother. There's no one, is there? Like, it really is. You know, the Rock and Triple H, we're going to get to in a minute, are on the way up, but they're not at that position. And it's kind of like, fuck, we need to put a new coat of paint on Foley. And I will say, like, the promo we mentioned, like, you know, the week before, I loved it. I forgot it was that good. You know, the Cactus Jack, you know, quote unquote retirement promo. Yeah. That would have been perfect. I mean, that is great setup. Like, it's great foreshadowing that I don't believe I saw coming at the time. And it's a great way to heat him up. And then we do this instead. It's like, somebody's watched Austin Powers, have they, this week? Like, I double-checked, came out in 1997, so very clearly Vince has gotten that DVD. And yeah, it is a bit like, you've got that great audience, and you've got, like, this big Fair Steve defense, and it's all to set up this? Yeah, but more of that later.
Yeah, I'm kind of on it, but we'll cover this first as to maybe why that is. So the April 20th Raw features the debut edition of The Love Shack. Dude Love's been given his own talk show, weirdly. And Jim Ross also reveals that Dude Love, as you pointed out, is the number one contender for the world title at Unforgiven this Sunday. Kind of an 11th hour decision made by Vince McMahon. Nobody seems to know why. Dude Love comes out, sits in his inflatable chair, does all his catchphrases. He's buzzing with life. Vince McMahon interrupts immediately, says he's furious with Dude. He had an opportunity to humiliate Steve Austin, and Dude, you took that away. He fines him $5,000 and says, don't ever interfere in my business again. And we'll touch on that later. Dude Love says, people have been asking me, why, Dude, why? Well, when I was coming to the ring last week, I was trying to create peace, love, and understanding. But when I stepped up to Vince, I was the victim of a sucker attack from behind by Stone Cold Steve Austin. Why would my former tag team partner, the man I carried for so many months, commit this heinous crime? And then he's come up with the exact reason why. It's the chicks. Dude Love was a chick magnet, but Stone Cold was always less successful with them, basically. Dude says he's got a match with Steve Blackman later on, but I'll forgive Stone Cold tonight as long as he comes out and grovels on his knees. And if you don't, Steve, Unforgiven will be a long night. I always knew I could take you, but I didn't realize it would be that easy. I'll have mercy. Austin comes out elsewhere in the show, raging, says, Vince, you're a liar. Dude Love, that psychedelic jackass. I'm not a rocket scientist, but if you ask me, it's been a conspiracy between Dude Love and Vince McMahon all along. Austin says he's going to beat Dude Love's ass and get his payback, but Unforgiven is too far away. It's only in 6 days, but it's too far away. I'm promising all of you that tonight I'm going to get my hands on Vince McMahon and Dude Love. And then we go to a main event where Dude Love is taking on Steve Blackman. Vince McMahon has put himself on commentary at ringside. He's also announced that at Unforgiven, he'll be sat ringside and something catastrophic is going to happen. In the match, Dude Love traps Steve Blackman in an abdominal stretch, and then the bell rings, and the match is over. Vince just casually says, well, big win. Dude Love sure is building up momentum. Steve Blackman very clearly hasn't submitted. He goes to the timekeeper's desk. Mark Yeaton kind of doesn't really know where to put himself, but he's the one that rang the bell. Vince McMahon kind of stands up and says, hang on, leave that man alone. But before anything can really happen, out comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. He drills Dude Love with a clothesline, but slides right the way through, gets out of the floor, pulls Vince McMahon away from the announce booth onto the floor, starts putting the boots to him again, but then Dude Love returns. Those two brawl. Vince McMahon is fuming in the ring. Out come Patterson and Briscoe. They both take Stone Cold Stunners. Dude and Austin are back on top of one another again. Red hot crowd as Vince McMahon just tries to get out of Dodge. And then Jim Ross asks out loud as the go-home line for Unforgiven, is Vince McMahon going to screw Stone Cold out of the title this Sunday? And just your point about Dude Love being the challenger, I love, this is headcanon, but I love the idea that the moment that Mick Foley gets backstage, having retired as Cactus Jack and having kind of blamed Stone Cold Steve Austin, the cynical Vince McMahon spotted a weakness and spotted a shared motivation. And it was at that moment that he got in Dude's head and created the entire scenario for Dude Love to I like that that's the kind of, you're kind of asked to infer that, aren't you? That all this talk of Austin's the smart babyface, Jim Ross is the smart babyface commentator, and both of those think, hang on a fucking second. Like, not only does Austin not get a challenger, the one challenger he gets is this guy now. Like, because you're right, it is weird. It is very weird that this is happening. But, like, I love how they give you all of these clues that there's some nasty business taking place behind the scenes here. It would get fleshed out the other side of Unforgiven. But even at this point, it's like, it a bit like the Shawn Michaels stuff before WrestleMania. It's like, this feels off. I don't like this.
Yeah, and that's the element of it I like. I like that, Austin's outright going, I don't think what they're saying is the truth. I don't think they're on the level. Like, that's a great layer to his character, isn't it? That he sees through it. He knows that it's bullshit. He knows what everyone's saying is wrong. He knows the fix is in. He knows the conspiracy is here. And, of course, for the first of many times, we're going to Montreal. But, that adds to it, too, as well, doesn't it? And it gives you, like, that worry of what could potentially happen. Poor Steve Blackman and all of this. He's the real victim overall. But, like, those elements are like, again, I can't shake that feeling from 1998. Oh, I'm so excited. Steve Austin's the champion. Can't wait to see who's going to wrestle. Oh, right. And that's me as someone who loves Foley. It's just, it's the Dude Love part of Foley. And I suppose the bit that you could use to defend it is, if it was Cactus Jack, would the storyline make sense? Probably not. Maybe a darker version of Cactus Jack. Maybe the version we got a couple of weeks ago, cutting that promo. Something like that could have worked. You probably could have made it like, well, now I'm going to be Mankind. And Mankind could have worked, but Mankind's probably so much of a, lovable loser, at this point that doesn't work. Maybe logically Dude worked, but it is a bit of a shock to be like, oh, right, okay. And especially, considering like it's this version of Dude Love 2, which is obviously the most hammy, and a joke about it, but very clearly. You say that conversation happened backstage, like Vince was like, and also, watch this tape, I just got it from Blockbusters, it's called Austin Powers, have you seen it? Like, literally, there's so much of that in it too as well. It makes it a little bit wacky, but, I mean, that's all to say. At the end of the day, does it really matter? Like, you're not going to, as much as Austin and McMahon worked as, like, this TV hook, you're not doing that on pay-per-view, at least at this point, so you need a body, don't you? If anything, as much as I love him, Foley's a warm body, isn't he, to form part of this overall Austin McMahon dynamic.
And I think as well, like, Dude Love was the only one of the three faces of Foley that was like, sounds lame, but he was Steve Austin's friend, wasn't he?
Yeah. And they use that, don't they? They use that here too.
Yeah, he was the one persona that was Austin's mate, like, for better and worse. And like, that's
ignore Mankind. Pick me, Mick. Fuck.
Yeah.
Pick me up, Steve. Sorry, yeah, fuck off.
It's like, that's more poison from Vince McMahon to get to the version of him that's his mate, isn't it? It's like,
maybe
I don't know, but
again, fair.
All of this will be fleshed out as we go on this journey, because we have to switch gears to somebody who is coming up on the inside track enough to be making Steve paranoid before he's even won the belt, and talk once again about the ups and downs of the Nation of Domination. We're going to go back to a segment that I know you were excited about. All the way back on the February 16th episode of Monday Night Raw, If you recall how how No Way Out ended for the Nation, things were not rosy in the garden, but out they all come, and The Rock wants to make right. He's got some gifts, and he wants to have a little ceremony before Farouk takes on Steve Blackman. It's interesting that they're all in their Nation of Domination gear, and he's decked out in this gorgeous black shirt and smart trousers look, completely separate from them at this point. He says The Rock's still IC champion, and despite what you people think, there's no dissension in the Nation of Domination. Now, come on, guys. I know everybody wants to be like The Rock, so I want to help you do that. And he reveals these $15,000 gold Rolexes, like D'Lo, Mark, Godfather. They all look absolutely thrilled with all of these. And then Farouk kind of is looking around, and there's not one for him. And Rock says, I want to clear up any confusion, Farouk. There's only one man that can lead the Nation of Domination, and it's you. And that's why I got you this. And it's this big square gift. Farouk tears open the paper, and it's a framed picture of The Rock. Farouk looks at it, is raging with it, flings it to the floor, and now out comes Steve Blackman for the match while The Rock tries desperately to recover the picture. We cut to the climax of the match where Farouk is going for the Dominator on Steve Blackman, hits it, but then as he sort of turns around out the corner of his eye, he sees The Rock just holding the picture of himself up and like posing with it to the fans. So Farouk leans over the ropes, grabs the framed picture to try and use on Steve Blackman. The Rock catches it just in time and snatches it back. And then in the distraction, Steve Blackman's able to get a roll up for the win. The Rock is fuming that the photo's been damaged. Mark Henry sort of holds it up in the ring, like they're trying to check if it's all right. And then Farouk just lays into it with punches, just literally punches holes through this picture of The Rock until it's in like 5 or 6 different bits. The Rock is raging. The two of them need separating again. The Rock is left alone in the ring, gutted with his damaged picture, while the rest of the Nation kind of begrudgingly go off with Farouk. Michael Cole is outside the Nation's locker room as we come back from the break. They're all screaming at each other. D'Lo Brown comes out to try and say, this is normal. There's always fights in families. But then he puts his wrist to the camera and he's wearing the gold Rolex. And he says, according to my gold Rolex, I think this interview time is over. And he goes back in to try and deal with the ongoing fight. I'm getting bored of saying this, but like they're just nailing it, aren't they? They are nailing everything at the moment.
This is an all-timer. I love that they have to send D'Lo to the door because Rock's still got to pay for Mark Henry's to be made a little bit bigger, a bit of extra gold to fit that wrist, as he says in the promo too. But this is an all-timer for me, like memory-wise, everything about it, the way it's sold, like the way Rock is just so proud of himself for getting the picture. And I love the commentary, like, play it up brilliantly as well, just as he gives out the gold Rolex as well. He must have gotten Farouk. Like, what's this? Is this a Picasso? Is it a Mozart? Like, the name it off like all these fucking artists that don't make things like that. But it's still, it works. It's Jerry Lawler. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But it's perfect because it's like, even Farouk's like, well, it must be something good. And it's a fucking picture of The Rock. Like, to this day, like, I feel like all young heels should be watching this segment because, like, and I feel like there are certain young heels who have watched it and have maybe ripped it off a little bit as well. It is just golden. Like, it works in every way as far as, like, this Rock and Farouk story. It also works perfectly for the Rock character being just blissfully unaware of, like, how egotistical he is and why wouldn't anybody want a lovely picture of me, a framed photo of me? Surely that's the best possible thing you can get. You also believe he actually believes that, as well as it being an insult for Farouk. Like you said, this has been boiling over for a while, and I've been waiting for this moment. It's just unbelievable, Telly.
They did they not use this in the? It was Jericho and MJF in the pandemic, wasn't it? Like Jericho's 30th anniversary, and everybody was thinking, "Here we go, here comes the turn." And in the end, does Jericho like hit a mascot with it or something rather than?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, they kind of swerve you, don't they? And it ends up being like him and MJF are still mates, and everything's fine.
And I love that difference as well. Like in modern wrestling, it works as a weapon. Back then, it's just a shit photo. Farouk can't even use it properly. Like, all you can do is fucking punch holes in it. And then Rock's annoyed that it's crumpled now and it's broken. Like, whereas now, it would be full on the finish, wouldn't it, to the match. But I think that's what I'm thinking. I think Ethan Page has done something like it with it on the Indies. He does a lot of Rock-inspired stuff. But it's just gold. The people haven't seen this segment. Unbelievable. February 16th Raw. You've got to see it.
Well, I sense they might have seen the next one about a month later because obviously The Rock's fighting a couple of different wars. He's got the internal politics with the Nation, but he's also, once again, got to face Ken Shamrock for the Intercontinental title, this time at WrestleMania. Ken's had The Rock's number seemingly every time, and The Rock keeps getting out of trouble, including at the Rumble. And he beat up The Rock last week, including ankle locking The Rock, while Farouk held the nation back from being able to save Rocky Maivia. Huge Rocky Sucks chance. As you pointed out, our intrepid reporter Kevin Kelly getting some answers out of Ken Shamrock. He says, look, Ken, can you keep your temper in check? And Shamrock does note that he's lost his temper a few times lately, but losing his temper is often what saved his life. And at WrestleMania, when you step into my zone, there's going to be a new Intercontinental Champion. And Shamrock says, we're going to find out who the real people's champion is. And he's delivered it with about as much charisma as my sort of sore throat will allow as well. It's not a great promo, but he just about gets the message across. But somebody who is a great promo is The Rock. And he's here with the Nation of Domination. But it's interesting that he kind of comes out by himself at first, and then Farouk is kind of like being dragged along by the rest of them. Kenny, The Rock says, Kenny, know your role and shut your mouth. There's the first one of those, because The Rock is ready to talk. Rock says, Ken, I don't even think you could last 2 minutes with any member of the nation, let alone me. How about this? How about if you can last 2 minutes with one of my guys, I'll give you a shot at the belt right now. Shamrock's like, yeah, let's go. So Rock just says, you got it. Go for it, D'Lo. D'Lo absolutely shits himself. He doesn't want to do this. Ken Shamrock said he doesn't care about D'Lo Brown, but if he's in, the clock's ticking. Let's go. The bell rings. The nation stalk the ring. There's huge Rocky Sucks chants. And D'Lo actually gets the jump on Ken Shamrock. So he's in a little bit of control. There's a clock on the bottom, but Shamrock fires back, punches, kicks, drop kicks, the belly to belly, big scream. He's in the zone, gets the ankle lock. The clock is ticking down, and D'Lo can't hold on. It looks like he's about to lose. And then wham, a brutal chair shot to the back of Ken Shamrock. Referee calls for a DQ. Rock doesn't have to defend his title. And Ken Shamrock's in some pain. He's selling the back on his knees. And then he kind of like shunts round. He's still on his knees. And then The Rock, good God Almighty, just rears back with a scary, and I mean really scary, chair shot to the head and face of Ken Shamrock. So much so that even Farouk is like, enough. That is enough. Yeah. Like, he takes the chair, like almost like a sort of disappointed father figure who thinks this has all gone too far, just snatches the chair off The Rock. Jim Ross says, at least Farouk's got an ounce of compassion, because The Rock certainly doesn't. Ken Shamrock is like trying to get back to his feet. He's like seeing the birds, Tweety birds fly around him. He doesn't look like he's in the room, to be honest. We come back from the break. Kevin Kelly is giving a panicked update on Ken Shamrock's condition, but The Rock just bulls into a shot saying, well, I guess I might not be able to face Ken Shamrock at WrestleMania, because I laid the smackdown on him in a major way. First time for that. And he actually just wraps the interview up for Kevin Kelly. He says, well, we'll see how Ken Shamrock gets on. But for now, Michael Cole, good old JR, back to you. And he just sends it back to the ring. Not a shred of compassion for the damage that he's just done to Ken Shamrock.
Who deserves it, by the way? Because, like, I watched this back and I was like, I mean, how long have you been a racist, Ken? Like, I don't know if you caught it, but, like, him calling D'Lo a monkey twice, like, in this thing, and getting a pop for it, too. Yeah, like, the second time, the first time, it's like, did you mean that, Ken? Like, were you just, like, trying to use, like, some of the Rock's verbiage against him? But he does it again, and, like, the crowd pop in a way that's uncomfortable, to be honest. D'Lo plays it for heat. You know, Rock uses that word himself, and that is part of it. But, like,
did he say, like, he's monkey ass at one point or something?
Yeah, that's in there too. It's like something like, I don't care about. Yeah, Rock does. Yeah, but Ken's like, it's something like, you know, I don't care about this. You know, and using the word there. I don't know. It was just odd to see. It really was, like, you know, with today's eyes. But, you know, yeah. I mean, if I can say outside of that. The Nation are fantastic here. Like, I love, you know, The Rock, you know, love The Rock's, like, role now as, like, this new de facto leader of the Nation. And I love that, like, D'Lo's got something to do now. We talked about it with Noel, didn't we? He was like, he was the engine of the Nation. He was the one, we need someone to actually do the work in this match. And Mark, and he's not going to fucking do it. So he goes out there. Now it's like, well, we need to send a sacrificial lamb to this, you know, Brock Lesnar-esque, in many ways, Ken Shamrock. So we need to throw him out there. So let's throw D'Lo. And, like, and he's selling it. Like, he doesn't want to go and he doesn't know what to do. And he's, you know, he hasn't had time to prepare. perfect little underling role for him as well. So yeah, we're settling into like a nice little rhythm with the nation, and yeah, very much enjoyed Ken getting that chair shot, as he does about like it's like 3 or 4 times. Mania itself as well, isn't it? That they go back to this. He just likes getting in the face with chairs. Maybe that explains why he says some of the things he says, but I did at least enjoy that part of it.
Well, Ken Shamrock likes getting hit, but I think The Rock likes hitting as well, because on the following week's Raw, it's Farouk versus Chains. We're not going to talk about that match, thank God, but there is a point where Farouk's in control. The Rock runs in with a steel chair, and Farouk's like, what are you doing? We're going to get DQ, just don't do it. And then The Rock just stops, has a think about it, gets a little smirk on his face, and just absolutely leathers Farouk with this chair. He dares to suggest that it was just an accident. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. The nation like, what you done? What you done? And then The Rock kind of goes, oh, well, and just kind of like goes up the ramp by himself, feigning that he definitely meant to hit Chains. I promise. But he does do the eyebrow down the camera to us to let us know exactly what's going on here. That takes us to March 30th, the Raw after WrestleMania, where The Rock, if you recall, has only retained his IC title by a reverse decision because Ken Shamrock lost the plot and refused to release the ankle lock. But when Rock was in the ankle lock, Farouk did not help him. So, you're left thinking that the nation at this point are in tatters. Rock's got his brand new IC title belt in the same way that Austin's got his brand new world title. He says he's going to beat up Ken Shamrock tonight, but he drops the first person from his usual oeuvre, and he says, "No, I don't mind The Rock, me. I want to say to you, Farouk, you opened my eyes to something last night, and I appreciate that. You were the reason The Rock joined the nation. You're the reason The Rock's been successful, and you are, without a shadow of a doubt, the reason why The Rock is still the IC champion. And tonight, I guarantee to you, the nation will be the strongest it's ever been." So we go to the match. It's Farouk and The Rock versus Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman, but they lose. There's more fighting yet again. The Rock just tries to walk out, just tries to leave, doesn't want anything to do with the nation. And Farouk says, "Oh, you like wearing your fancy clothes, Rock? Well, you're going to wear an ass whooping. Get out here now." And The Rock hears that, comes back out, then nose to nose again. The nation are kind of trying to get in between them. There's another brawl that breaks out, seemingly like everything's gone out of hand. So The Rock just storms off up the aisle. Farouk has got the microphone. He says, "Where do you think you're going? I want some more of that." And then The Rock does the eyebrow, and all of a sudden the Nation of Domination attack Farouk. There's some like real boos here, like whether it's shock or people not seeing it coming or what. But Rock saunters back into the ring, hits Farouk with a rock bottom, says he's the leader of the nation, he's the new ruler of the nation. He then says to Farouk, "Take that back to Haiti, where you come from." And then The Rock lines up the existing members of the nation, I should say, the new members of the new nation, who, did you notice, were no longer dressed in their Nation of Domination clothes, but were dressed in street clothes as a bit of foreshadowing. They all do the salute, and The Rock has taken over the Nation of Domination. The 13th of April Raw the next week features Farouk getting beaten up in a parking lot by the nation. But he comes out, new music, ribs taped, sort of heart on sleeve, Ron Simmons baby face almost. And he calls out The Rock, says, "I need another chance to finish kicking your ass." But out come the nation, once again, decked in much nicer clothes than they've been decked in previously. The Rock's doing all the talking. They're backing him up. He says, "Farouk, you're going to smell what The Rock's going to cook in Philadelphia tonight." He'd rolled that one out for at WrestleMania for the first time. He says, "There's two things that you can do, nothing and like it." And now we know where Alex Shane got that one from.
Did you send that message to Andy Ogden as well? Because I did. I sent the link as soon as him and Eddie got a message from me this morning.
It's a Twitter podcast all along. Farouk does the nation salute, and The Rock's looking confused, and then suddenly behind the nation, it's Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock striking. There's a huge brawl where like Farouk has obviously found common grounds in Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and all that sort of stuff. A big brawl breaks out between the two war insides, and then I just really briefly wanted to mention the April 20th Raw, not for the very, very boring Long Island street fight between The Rock and Karma, who, by the way, is now being referred to as the godfather of the nation. But we have brand new Nation of Domination theme music, new name. They're just called The Nation now. They've instantly been like made 10 times cooler by The Rock being in charge of the group, way more current, way more sort of, I dare I say it, traditional wrestling here stable, but they come through the crowd all in their own sort of gear, just a totally different vibe. This is now the Rock's group. And obviously, as part of that, we'll get our multi-man match at the pay-per-view to kind of try and tie up some of these loose ends.
Yeah, a long time coming, and obviously we've seen it teased out for a while. And we've said it the whole time, like, Farouk's being very selfless here and, like, allowing this to happen to him. He's in the worst possible situation, isn't he? Where you get turned face by getting beaten up by heels. Like, and obviously Ahmed Johnson's been in that position too, and Farouk put him in that position. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, that's always the worst, isn't it? Like, who's really going to get behind this loser, Farouk? And we would find out. Not many people until he'd eventually be repackaged as well. But it's not about him. It's about The Rock. It's about getting him over. It's about giving D'Lo a better position. Like, so D'Lo was, look at his rise from like just one of the faceless goons in the background of the Nation of Domination, and now he's a prominent member. Like, even if he's like the lower rung member, he's a prominent like character, and he's using that to like his best. And yeah, there's two other people there too, but they count as well. It's just, but it's a perfect repackaging, rebranding, whatever you want to call it, and just a great payoff that, like I say, we all saw coming, but again, kept you hooked, week on week, waiting for it to eventually happen. And yeah, this just feels like another step for The Rock, doesn't it? It's like now there's no pretending even about it. Even if we all knew really he was the star of the nation, now he's really the star of the nation. And yeah, I think that's perfect for him too.
Well, Benno, imagine if you could a situation where, I don't know, let's say The Rock is about to like make a big career move, maybe the kind of career move that he could make in the mid-card that could ultimately make him a main eventer. Then imagine a guy that like just always lags that little bit behind The Rock when he comes to making his big moves, because immediately following The Rock taking over the Nation of Domination, wouldn't you believe it? Triple H comes out to take over DX. God bless him. And he's trying, and he's trying to keep pace.
Look, there's a ball on the floor, mate. He had to pick it up. Come on.
Somebody had to. Yes, you all know this promo. Triple H comes out. It's the Raw after WrestleMania once again. Triple H, of note for the first time on Raw, because it was debuted at WrestleMania, gets the X pyro in the background for the first time, a key component of the type of DX we're about to talk about here. Jim Ross talks about a rift that's been rumored between Triple H and Shawn Michaels. And Triple H talks about Shawn dropping the ball, says he asks Shawn thousands of times, is he with us? Is he one of us? And all the answer he got was, don't worry, kid, I got it covered. Let me make the decisions. Let me handle the plays. Well, not anymore. Tonight, he takes over. He forms an army, the genesis of a new Degeneration X. And when you start an army, you go to your blood. He slaps his arm. You turn to your buddies. You turn to your friends. You turn to the clique. The DX music plays. And out on the stage, crotch chopping all the way, is Sean Waltman. JR goes, well, look who's back. A new day is dawning for DX. The kid's getting a big reaction here. He's not named as anything. He's not named as Kid. He's not named as Waltman. He's not named as Pac. He's not named as Six. But we all know who he is. And he says, so Triple H says, like, talk to him, kid. He says, I heard Hulk Hogan come on television and say I couldn't cut the mustard. Well, Hulk Hogan, you suck, pal. I don't think you have any room to talk about anybody cutting any mustard. And Hulk, you better not stop short, or Eric Bischoff will go so far up your ass he'll know what you had for breakfast. Fans love this. Jerry Lawler giggling like a kid just because we're all shooting Cowboy live on Raw. He continues, he says, so I'm sitting at home with my mind on my money and my money on my mind. And Triple H calls and he's saying DX needs me. It's a shame he didn't ring him before No Way Out, I guess. And he says, and believe you me, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, they'd be right here with us if they weren't being held hostage by WCW and Eric Bischoff. This is a new era for DX. We're here to rip ass on the World Wrestling Federation. And we got two words for you. The fans chant, suck it. Like, there's more. There's obviously lots more to recap. Yeah. But it is mad in this segment how without, and we love him, he's our guy, but without, like, the poisonous energy of Shawn Michaels, like, the vibe has changed instantly, hasn't it? This is different. Generation X, never mind, like the DX Army and everything else. Shawn Michaels makes this stable one thing, and without him, it's a completely different thing.
Totally. Like, I remember, like, at the time I was using, as I've mentioned before here, German teletext to get my scoops on a Tuesday morning to wait for the Friday Raw airing. And, like, I remember, like, the headline saying a lot of words in German and then 1, 2, 3 kid and being like, oh, yeah, I haven't seen him on WCW in a while. No way.
Yeah.
I think it said DX, so I think I knew it was going to be something to do with that. But then still seeing it was something else. And again, there's so many things here. I think Triple H, as much as he's going to be like a whipping boy for us, I might actually take my foot off the pedal for a little while with him. I think this is a good period for him. This is a great idea. Well, Shawn's gone. Well, he needs, even if it's going to be an upper mid-card role, he needs to step up and be the leader. That makes perfect sense. X-Pac coming fresh off, Kid, as you say, coming fresh off WCW TV as a very important part of the NWO and the Wolfpack and an unsung part of it. He's the one who, as daft as it is to say, he invented the crotch chop, didn't he? He's a lot of the Too Sweet and the stuff like that comes from Scott Hall, but he's also part of the mix there, and he's part of obviously their overall clique as well. So that's landed in the laps absolutely perfectly for him to come over, and then on top of that, cuts the promo of his life here, mate. Honestly, I got goosebumps watching it today. And he's not a great promo, is he, Shawn Michaels? We would find out in subsequent weeks and years and, decades that he's not a great promo, and he'd pretty much give him one line, wouldn't he, in future? But, the passion coming out of him.
It's real here, isn't it? It's real.
It really is, and it can't be overstated. I said to you in our messages today, this is not, I don't think this is embellishment or overstating it. I honestly think this is one of the most important parts of this entire war. And I know DX is there, we've got the NWO at home, and it kind of has been this entire time, as much as me and you have loved it. But there's something about the content of what he says. They're going at Bischoff, they're going at Hogan, they're saying that Nash and Hall would be here if they wanted to, all of that stuff. Yeah. It kind of strips away everything that was cool about the NWO. And I remember feeling it at the time, you kind of just assume they're all mates, don't you? You kind of assume, they're all in it together. And whether it was true or not, him telling us, and they do it in subsequent segments, the Nash and Hall don't even want to be there. They don't want to be in the uncool fucking WCW place. Never mind the t-shirts they're wearing. They don't want to be up with old man Terry and Eric Bischoff up his arse. They want to be here with us, the cool company. And something about that really resonates. And it's I think this entire time, while Austin has been the solution to a lot of things, and Austin is the key reason, don't let, do the documentaries fool you about the tank and whatever like that. I'm not going that far. But I think they did, and Austin was it a little bit, need an antidote to the NWO. And Austin was kind of there, heel, who's a babyface who you're allowed to cheer. So they had that. But I think this was not giving them their own version, which is kind of what we've had already. But I think it was taking something away from WCW. That's not the cool one anymore. As everything they say here, we're the young ones. We're the members of the clique you actually like. Again, add Nash and Hall to it as well. This is the cool place where the young wrestlers are. This is the cool thing. And then you've got knobheads like me and you in school, mate, going, and they're pointing at the dicks too. Could it get any cooler? The NWO they haven't got it. They haven't got fucking 6 anymore. They don't really do that anymore. They're nowhere near as cool. They got fucking Kurt Hennig and Lex Luger and stuff like that in the NWO. It's nowhere near as cool as this. I think there's just something to it that maybe just chips away at what, WCW, and more to the point, the NWO have been sold to us this entire time, and I think it's a stroke of genius to do. And obviously, they had more numbers later on, but unbelievable segment and such an important moment for a wrestler. It's only fucking X-Pac, it's only the 1, 2, 3 kid, but it feels massive. It feels like, outside of the other little ones, one of those big moments where someone steps off one telly program and into the other, and it's just ready for him. It's nailed for him. Nice one, Shawn, for overdosing on pills and doing your back in, because this was the moment too for this to happen.
I think you're completely right. I think we've seen this in other wrestling wars. You could even reference the most recent one with AEW and WWE. You can't put a price on what it is, what it is to be the cooler of the two companies. And sometimes it requires certain moments to crystallize that. And I think about how people celebrate AEW's All Out in 2021, when you have CM Punk returning against Darby Allin on the same night that Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson debut in the main event. Yeah. And it's every wrestler wants to be here. And then you watched in 2023 when WWE took that back. You can book whatever stories you want, but sometimes there is just no replacement for being the cool show. And you have no idea what wrestler is going to define cool until they walk out on that stage. And it's that kind of magic, isn't it? And to your sort of point about them dropping slightly down to the mid card, I think that's incredibly shrewd of the WWF, because how much have we spoken about since In Your House went to 3 hours, how bad these lower and mid cards are for barren wrestlers. It's a wasteland of gimmicks that aren't over, and it's fine because Steve's in the main event and Michaels is working the matches of his life, but a lot of this is dross. And then out of nowhere, DX, with all the cachet of being a main event act, is now going to fill your mid card with 4 wrestlers who are like nearly as over as Steve Austin. Like, what a masterstroke that is to just like solve one of the biggest problems you've got. And I mean, we'll move on here because obviously in the main event of this Raw, we've talked about it through the Cactus Jack stuff. They formally induct the Outlaws into DX. It's been a foregone conclusion since No Way Out. We talked about
but
the
also
chemistry.
perfect.
So perfect. You had to still actually do it, and they've actually done it. And, let's not sort of shy away from this. The Fed initially definitely believed that DX were going to be heels. Like, they're horrible to Funk and Foley here. They tie Foley up in the cage, but they put a chain around Funk, but they put a chain around his neck and then make him watch while they brutalize McFoley. Like, don't get it twisted. This is supposed to be a heat angle, but I just think they've underestimated how much people immediately enjoy this act. We go to the 6th of April the following week. And it's funny because they're in Syracuse, so it's not the only time Shawn Michaels gets a kick in that city, because Triple H obviously can't fucking wait to unveil this one properly. Like, the Outlaws are in he's buzzing that the Outlaws are in the t-shirts. Remember how Shawn was like, not yet. Like, he cannot fucking wait to get the Outlaws all kitted out in the DX stuff. Like, they're all talking about how it's X-Pac, I think he says, if you came to see the grumpy old men stinking the joint up, you're in the wrong place. This is DX and we're getting jiggy with it. And you have to remember that might have sounded cool in 1998, but the point still stands. Like Triple H is talking about the DX army. The Road Dogg is mentioning how you've got the youngest, coolest, hippest cats in the WWF and they're in DX. Fans are just cheering it. And as if to be presented with the contrast, we are once again looking at the Legion of Doom, and I don't care if they're LOD 2000, they're still fucking dinosaurs. And poor old nugget Owen Hart, man.
Oh, mate.
The April 13th Raw, right? DX are in the ring, arsing about. I think they've just done the bit with the water pistol where it's like, it's Triple H's dick and it's absolutely massive and he's firing jizz into the crowd. And then, the bin lorry reverse siren that kicks off Owen Hart's music plays and out he comes. He calls them worthless degenerates, and it's like when Brett used to say it, thinking he was scoring a point, isn't he? It's like, no, that's kind of the name, Brett. Like, Owen does it as well, and he's like, right, who's going to take me on? And DX don't sell this as a threat in the slightest. Triple H rips the piss out of Owen Hart and says, Owen, we racked our brains trying to work out who was going to face you, and we realized the only fair way to do it was to do an essay writing contest. He basically talks about how Road Dogs was written on the back of rolling papers. X-Pac was just full of the most vulgar stuff he'd ever read. He said, China, the 9th wonder of the world. First reference for that. That was pretty good, but Owen, you don't need to know what she would have done to you if I'd left her alone in the ring with you this night. Billy's, his was the best. Yeah, he said he wanted to kick your ass, but I was just too busy laughing at the pictures that he's drawn of you with barnyard animals. What do you think, Billy? Have we got 2 words for them? Billy Gunn goes, suck it. Jim Ross is pretty snarky. He's like, very creative, but sorry, Jim, over is over. And the crowd is starting to pick up on this call and response now. Owen Hart is ready to come out with to fight Billy Gunn. He's got the Legion of Doom as backup. Spike friends. So, he ultimately beats Billy with a roll-up because there's a big distraction of the brawl. And then just when you think the Legion of Doom and Owen Hart might get a shred of credibility because they've actually got a pin on DX, they do their own version of the crotch chop. And it's even lamer than Mike Tyson's, isn't it? They're all arms and everything. It's like, you all suck, guys. Last sort of segment, DX in the meantime, by the way, been annoying the Disciples of Apocalypse. They've pissed on their bikes. They've used the Bariquas to beat up the DOA, and then they've beat up the Bariquas because they cannot be trusted. And then there's a 6-man tag on the Go Home Raw where Animal gets a hot tag, beats everybody up, and appear to have the New Age Outlaws beaten. It's Road Dogg they hit with a Doomsday device, but China just runs round, picks up Sonny, threatens to take her away and destroy her. That distracts Hawk, and that allows X-Pac to sneak in, hit Animal with the chair. DX have got the numbers game. Billy Gunn hits a pile driver onto Animal, and DX get the win, heading into In Your House Unforgiven, where all of these respective wrestlers will be in action against one another. The DX army have arrived.
honestly. And like, I think altogether as well, like the restraint, I suppose, you know, when I said like DX is almost, we've got NWO at home, like, the thing about the NWO is, you know, they balloon it and have all these shit members and, you know, Michael Wall Street and Big Bubba and stuff like that. And it kind of, you know, it's easy then to point out if you are Walt, it's maybe not as cool as you think it is. Like, it's such a, it's a, you know, WWE's creative is working on better cylinders than WCW's. Like, their version is, but we'll make it, it's the NWO, but it's kind of like the Four Horsemen. Everyone's got a role. It's an army, but this is the army and it's just these people. It's 4 people plus China. And like everyone's got a role to play. I always point to them as like a great example of a stable. It's almost, you said before about like how over it is and like how it rivals Austin at points. Like, and again, we don't believe there to be propaganda about it as far as like, you know, the tank change and everything. But there's still something to that, isn't there? There is something. And again, it's the individually, you know, they're all, you know, got their own place in the card, but together, like something about this works. Fucking the New Age Outlaws, you know, they're busting out the tag team champions of the world line. That's getting over. They're allowed to point at the knobs now. Shawn's not going to tell them off. Shawn's not going to get no way out on pay-per-view and go, hang on, what are you doing? You're not in. You're not in. Like, they're allowed to do it now. And they're fucking loving it. And add on top of it, and again, maybe it's our age at the time watching it, but, you know, I always remember the DX VHS tape that came out that had Shawn Hunter and China on the cover with naked Shawn, but the contents of it is pretty much all pre-DX stuff with New Age Outlaws and then a little bit of this month, isn't it? And it has them pissing on the DOA spikes. I'm loving that too, you know, because again, I'm an immature teenager and that's fucking, I'm afraid, the target demo at this point. So they're perfectly tapped in to what people want at this point too. It is just, it's something that shouldn't work as well as it does, but it works so well. And like you say, when you contrast it with the fucking geeks, with the LOTs, with the poor Owen, but the Owen Harts of the world, it's very much the haves and have-nots. And I think, this is another big piece of the puzzle that you identified earlier that, like, replaces your Quebecers and your shite that's on the undercard of these pay-per-views. Like, you need this in the card too, and it's such an important piece of the puzzle.
Well, speaking of shite on the undercard, let's talk about Gold. Let's talk about Goldust for a second, because Goldust has obviously been screwing around with Luna Vachon, and that sort of brought them two into the orbit of Sable and Mark Mero, as we talked about in No Way Out. And to be honest, I wanted to keep this brief, but I thought it was important to give it the spotlight it deserved, because Unforgiven is going to find Sable and Luna wrestling again, and they also work the mixed tag at WrestleMania on, you know, with their respective partners. And this is really the making of Sable as, at this point, kind of second or third in the over list with Steve Austin and DX. It is remarkable. So, like, February 23rd, you've got Owen Hart versus Mark Mero, and it's basically the first time after No Way Out that Sable, once again, having shoved Mark Mero over, like, just wants to kill Luna, and it requires this, like, wall of security to get in and get in the middle of them. And this time, even Dustin Rhodes tries to hold Sable back, and when he does that, that flares up Mark Mero. That gets him to say, hang on, no, like, you don't touch her. I can bollock her and tell her to leave, but not you. So that creates the kind of all-important rift between Goldust and Mark Mero. But it's not about them. It's about Sable and Luna. The fans are salivating for this clash. We get an example of it again on March the 9th. You've got Mero versus the artist formerly known as Goldust. And because the women are desperate to kill each other, they're both handcuffed to the rope, to the posts in opposite sides. Jim Ross is great. He's like, these two guys, they're just attention-starved dickheads, basically. They're facing each other because they don't like the attention is on Luna and Sable. The referee gets taken out by Goldust after a fairly dull match, but it's also that he can steal the handcuff key. He teases that he's going to unlock Sable at first, but he doesn't. He goes and he unlocks Luna, and Luna just makes a sort of a move for Sable straight away. They've brought makeup with them. They just like cover her in like dark green and black and red, like awful, like just kind of like just assaulting her with this makeup, basically. Goldust is pissed himself on the microphone while Luna puts a few digs in as well. Sable's amazing here. She's like screaming, not for Mark Mero to help, but just screaming anger at Luna and what she's going to do to her when she gets free. And then just to add like sort of insult to injury, Luna throws a glass of water in Sable's face and they're like, wash it off, and they storm off up the aisle. When Mark Mero finally comes round, he does a really good job of being a dipshit, and he's like, what happened to you, Sable? And like, just look at her, Mark. What could have possibly happened? It's like, so Sable is like, she's got a really good like money fuming expression at this point, like her performance has started to come out. It's almost as if, Benno, that she's being imbibed with a bit of confidence from somebody with a lot of power. Unrelated to that, Vince Russo wants to present her with an award on the March 23rd edition of Raw. He's got a plaque in hand. They talk about how it's to present Sable and Sunny, but Sunny's not here. She's under the weather. She'll be back at WrestleMania. For the January bikini edition of Raw magazine, being the biggest selling issue ever. Very smart. They had to make 2 covers. So if you're a nerd like me, you've got to buy both to put them in your nice plastic wallets. So they've managed to sort of break all the records. But before Sable can really do a thank you speech, out comes Luna and Goldust. Sable wants to fight, but in the distraction, Luna grabs the plaque and smashes it over Sable's head, breaks it into loads of pieces, rips away her dress. By the time Mero gets there, Luna and Goldust have already gone or are sort of being carted out the ramp. Basically, that kind of gets us through WrestleMania, where Sable over-delivers in her match, hits the Sable bomb. We kind of can talk about when we get to the match, the politics between Luna and Sable, but Sable's big night at WrestleMania goes very well. That leads to Luna laying out the challenge for an evening gown match at Unforgiven. Jerry Lawler just kind of contain himself. And to that end, on the April 13th Raw, we get Luna versus Sable as a tune-up match. But of course, it's Goldust dressed in an evening gown. He's rolling around oh no, don't pull the dress off me, whatever. Luna's just kicking his ass. Sable's had enough of that. She's just sick of this shit. She runs out. She beats the fuck out of Luna. They are just laying it in. She's grabbing Luna's braids. It's white hot in the building. Honestly, man, you think the amount of pull-aparts Triple H books in 2026 Raw, none of them are as hot as every single one of these pull-aparts between Sable and Luna. They're just kept separate just enough. Sable's top's been ripped, and obviously that's by design because they want you to buy the pay-per-view. You might see it happen to her whole dress. Yes, I know it's salacious, and we're almost leaning into it being a good thing that women's dresses can get ripped off on pay-per-view. But I kind of want to put that to one side, because what's actually happening here is the promotion of an incredibly over feud and an undeniable star on the rise in Sable.
Yeah, and everyone's playing the roles. Great to get it to that point, aren't you? We've been vocal about Mark Mero and how important he is to it, but Luna's it was totally. I was going to say she's an unsung hero there, but even by me, I'd forgotten how important she is as far as just having a foil to go back and forth with Sable on and to be there to get that heat. And Goldust there too. I did get a bit of a chuckle out of him playing Sable and screaming into the microphone and getting naked and stuff. He was actually, for once, genuinely a little bit looser than funny in this role too. Yeah. But also it allows for, as we talked about with the pay-per-view, it's now become a thing, hasn't it? The Sable pop when she comes out, people do lose their minds, and it's a lot of it's horny teenagers, but also there's just a general overness around it. She's we're talking this show pretty much, isn't it? It's the new era, the new generation, a new nation, as we were talking about. It's Steve, it's The Rock. Sadly, it's Triple H, but and Baby Foley's in there too as well to give him a little bit of credit. And then on top of it, it's Sable, and Sable's not one we mentioned, but she is someone who, again, all those other pieces, was there a year ago, but was nowhere near what she is now, and that's the big difference, isn't it, in this company now?
Well, I suppose in terms of our chapter points, speaking of nowhere near where
they were
back then.
Good night. Sound sorted.
We have been, I think, for us especially, the absolute kindest and fairest we can be to a feud. But it's time for that kindness to come to an end, because we're going to do the build and conclusion of the Undertaker and Kane's WrestleMania program. We have the March 2nd, obviously, situation with Kane and Steve Austin that doesn't go ahead. So Paul Bearer wants to cause a bit of trouble. He gets Kane to go and get the bell, but not just the bell, bring Mark Yeaton in while you're there. Kane destroys a planted fan just for the hell of it while he's doing it, drags Mark Yeaton into the ring. Paul Bearer wants them to do a 10-bell salute for The Undertaker because he's dead. And then once Mark Yeaton's rang the bell 10 times in fear, Bearer says, "You want to ring it one more time for you?" and sitches Kane on Yeaton, hits a choke slam and a tombstone. Mark Yeaton is left out. And Paul Bearer is just gloating. He says, "All of you that laughed at the fat man, well, you need to live in fear, because Kane's got one tombstone left. Who should we give it to?" He teases that it might be Jim Ross and the King. He says there's got to be somebody in the back. There's got to be somebody that wants Kane's last tombstone. And then all of a sudden, the Undertaker's dong hits We get it again and again and again. Just like the 10-bell salute, there's now 10 utterances of the Undertaker's dong echoing throughout the building. The lights are no longer red. They're
sorry,
purple. They're blue.
Sorry. I apologize. I need to go.
They're purple and blue. Anyway, they're Paul Bearer is promising Kane. He's saying it cannot be the Undertaker. That's not the Undertaker's dong. I know the Undertaker's dong. That's not him. Bearer's starting to panic, and then all of a sudden there's a coffin on the stage. A lightning bolt hits it, and the Undertaker is sat on top of the coffin. He sits up like no fucking around. The pop here is absolutely enormous.
It is.
The Undertaker says, "Welcome to hell, and the demon who will lead you to eternal damnation. You can't destroy that which doesn't blah, 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 blah. He's not dead anymore." Well, you get the fucking point. It's the Undertaker. He's ruined it now. This is all over.
But he knows how to use lapel microphones though, like 20 years before podcasting. Yeah, good work.
He's like a sort of an influencer guy, isn't he? He says, "The reason I was gone, Kane, is not because I was dead, but because I had to tell my parents why I was going to do the one thing I promised never to do, and that was to fight you." Bearer says, "You're not a phenom anymore. Kane's the phenom," but Undertaker's going to prove him wrong. Kane does the pyro on the stage, and it's pretty cool. The Undertaker just walks through the pyro and says, "I will walk through the fires of hell to face you, Kane. You will understand why I'm the Lord of Darkness." His little influencer microphone briefly cuts out, but Undertaker keeps it on track anyway. He says, "Remember the times we fought as kids and the mother and father would always save you? Not this time. And at WrestleMania, you will rest in peace." It's like an incredible way for this specific Raw to go off the air. If you consider that they'd sold Austin versus Kane as the main event, nobody's going to be disappointed that they've not delivered it, because they've delivered something just as cool instead. We go to March the 9th, where Paul Bearer has spent a week being stressed about the Undertaker's return. Jerry Lawler's interviewing them in the locker room, and all of a sudden the lockers start flapping, and the Undertaker's haunting them, so they just like shit themselves and like say, "Come on, Kane, we're going to the ring, we're going to the ring." And it's brilliant because Bearer's been trying to dodge talking about the Undertaker. We're talking about Vader. Where Vader's gone. Do you not see when Kane smashed Vader in? Why is anybody bothered about the Undertaker? But then he kind of lets the mask slip, and he's like, "I'm angry that the Undertaker returned. Like, we did you a favor burning you alive. You could have rested in peace, but no, you came back, and that's fine with me, because Kane's going to get scarier and meaner now. This is not a game, dead man." And just as he's saying it's not a game, the lights go out, and then Bearer says, "I'm telling you, dead man, it's not a game, it's not a game." Lights come back on. Undertaker's in the ring again. Thunderous pop. Lights go off. Lights come back on. Undertaker's gone. Bearer's like, kind of inconsolable at this point. We go to March 16th, the following week. The lights have gone off in the building, and the Undertaker appears at the top of the Titantron, looking down at the Undertaker, at Kane and Paul Bearer in the ring. He says, "He will strike down upon thee with anger and furious vengeance. You will know my name as the Lord of Darkness." And we've all seen films, Mark. He says, "Little brother, I've felt your wrath. Now you're going to feel mine, and it's too late to turn back. The only thing you can do is rest in peace." And he fires a lightning bolt down to this coffin on the stage where, I don't know, it kind of looks like a bunch of bin bags, but Jim Ross tells us it's an effigy of Kane, and it's effective enough. The effigy's on fire. Paul Bearer's crying over the microphone. It's all in sort of trouble. March 23rd, 1 week later, Undertaker goes to the parents' graveyard to apologize for what he's got to do at WrestleMania. I only hope after all of this we can rest in peace as a family once again. But Kane is out there later on with a very stressed Paul Bearer. He saw the message that he gave to his parents. "I'm sick of all of this." And Kane has just the same powers as you, dead man. And as if to prove that point, Bearer says, "Oh, you want a demonstration, do you?" So he sets some pyro off on a lighting truss, and the commentator says, "Wow, that's scary." He fires a lightning bolt at one of the monitors at the commentator's table, so that starts smoking. And Bearer says, "Look, there's that spotlight, that's in my eye, knock that out." And he sends a lightning bolt up to this spotlight, he knocks that out. Bearer says, "Don't think, Undertaker, that we're scared of you. Kane's every bit you are, and he's better. Go on, Kane, do what you like." And Kane looks down around the ring, and he sees a crew member just conspicuously by the ring and just sends the lightning bolt at him, sets this man on fire. This man runs up the ramp, all on fire, all in flames. I remember vividly watching this on Sky Sports as the words, "This is a stunt," came up in big white text on the UK broadcast to that. The man gets put out on the stage, and we're all supposed to be terrified that Kane's just as big a monster as The Undertaker. But on March the 30th, after, of course, the match between the two at WrestleMania, where Undertaker has fought Kane and Undertaker has beat Kane, Paul Bearer comes out and says, look, dead man, Kane's still here. Just because of the 1, 2, 3, it doesn't mean it's all over. He kicked out of 2 tombstones. He almost kicked out of 3. And don't believe the hype. Undertaker, you were kicked all over the shop at WrestleMania. And anyway, I had a dream when I got back to the hotel that night. I saw a ring surrounded by fire. And I saw Kane standing alone in that ring. Because Undertaker, I want you to step into my dream. In order to win this match, the loser must catch fire. It's going to be an inferno at Unforgiven in your house. And I want to pause it there before we recap what comes next. But I'll peel back the curtain a little bit, because I kind of felt like me and you have always been on the same page with the old Brothers of Destruction. And for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, I subtitled this section, Finally, The Undertaker and Kane Gets a Bit Shit. Because it has, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's very much not for me, all of this, right down to like you said, Undertaker's spooky fight. Like, again, the moment when he sits up and the crowd go nuts, amazing. Yeah. And then the promo afterwards, it's like I don't know what like book Vince Russo was reading. Maybe he was getting into Lord of the Rings or something like that. And this was his shitty C-movie version of it. But everything about it's just crap in it. The magic now. Yeah. Like, we've gone from like the actual believable backstory and Kane and Paul Bearer and all of that. There's still elements of that there. And Paul Bearer's still very good, like I say. Backstage with Jerry Lawler, got a bit of kick out of that. When he gets mad at people calling him the fat man, I get a kick out of that. And then the Undertaker shoots laser beams and Kane shoots fire. And it's just, we're going to have, not to give it away too much, but we're going to have a good guest on the next review for Unforgiven that might defend some of this, but very much not for me, this, like they have. I feel like WrestleMania is kind of like where they should have ended and arguably where they planned on ending it. And now we're just like, well, what else can we do with them? And fuck me, magic appears to be the answer.
Yeah, magic followed by tragic, because a couple of weeks after that, Undertaker is cutting a promo about how he's going to accept the match and he doesn't want to do this, but, Kane, you've made your bed, you're going to be set fire to in it or something. And the Titantron reveals that Kane and Paul Bearer have gone to the parents' grave where the Undertaker was a few weeks earlier. Kane smashes the graves with a sledgehammer and sets fire to them.
Loves a grave, Russo, doesn't he? Just loves a grave. Same in WCW.
Bloody loves a grave. And you're probably thinking to yourself, right, okay, well, at least they've set fire to the graves, so they're not going to do anything more outlandish than that. Or so we think, because on the go-home Raw for Unforgiven, Bearer and Kane lower the Undertaker to the gravesite one more time because they're going to do something heinous with the coffins of the parents. Undertaker subsequently leaves the building, and then while he's left the building, Paul Bearer and Kane arrive back with the coffins. They wheel them out onto the stage, and Paul Bearer cuts his promos, again, coffins with corpses in, and says how, here they are, dead man, here's your parents. I bought the cheapest wood caskets I could find when I buried these two. Undertaker arrives, he's in the same clothes he wore on Mayhem in Manchester when British Airways lost his gear. He's obviously had to run back from the graveyard as quick as possible. But before he can do anything about it, it's too late. I can't believe I'm saying these words. Paul Bearer sets fire to the Undertaker's dad's corpse in the coffin. And when Undertaker runs up to try and do something about it, Kane choke slams the Undertaker onto his mom's decrepit corpse inside the coffin. So much so that we get close-ups of the Undertaker selling on top of this coffin that's now broken into pieces. And you can see some of the bones and the maggots sticking out of the coffin as the Undertaker. And this is what's so daft about it. You just made the point. Lightning bolts, magic tricks. Oh, no, a choke slam. Like the Undertaker's telling the pain of a wrestling move onto his mother's bones. It's fucked. Forget it. It's done. We're back to comfortable ground with what we feel about The Undertaker and Kane.
And from here on out as well, folks, like, as much as you might get sick of me saying when it comes to DX stuff, I'm just hoping Shawn Michaels gets involved and Triple H doesn't hate him really and he's coming back. But also just watching all of this stuff, just going like, surely it's gonna, like they're gonna make some sense out of it. Surely, like, no, like they forget what they're, that they did this. They'll forget they did this angle in a couple of weeks and they'll be talking about like the mum and dad, like the still like the they're still buried somewhere, and none of this happened, and like who's related to who, and whose dad Paul Bearer is. All those levels of shit. But whereas at the end of the day, they did have something, and they do have something. Like even the match that they're trying to sell here, like the Inferno match. I know it's shit, but like the idea of it in young me's head was like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like it was a great selling point, wasn't it? Like you straight away, your imagination was going wild. That was enough. Even a couple of stunts with some fire. That was enough to sell that element of it. But they had to add in, choke slams and dead bodies and graves and just all kinds of nonsense. Like, and all of this as well, to your point, packed into like this 6-week stretch. Like it's absolutely ridiculous, and none of it will mean anything in 3 months when they change their mind about the story anyway. Like it's crap. It's wrestle crap. It is what it is.
It is. The polar opposite of the patience and the actual, dare I say it, subtlety and nuance they apply to the months and months of building.
The slow burn.
Remember that red light behind the curtain? Like, as that last little bit of foreshadowing. Remember how artful this almost was for a minute there before what we got? Yeah. I'll get on to any other business, but really I can fold this into the previewing of Unforgiven. You mentioned the Inferno match. WWE have won at long last a ratings point, and they want to keep this momentum going with Unforgiven in your house. It's not just an 83 win streak at this point that they've snapped. They want to take pay-per-view back from WCW as well. And to that point, if we sort of take a look at this Unforgiven card, we've got The Undertaker and Kane. Yes, it's a WrestleMania rematch, but now you've got to buy the pay-per-view because one of the fellas is going to be on fire. You've got Sable versus Luna. Yes, it's a WrestleMania rematch, but one of them is going to get their dress ripped off, okay? Like Triple H versus Owen Hart. Yes, it's a WrestleMania rematch, but Chyna's going to be up there in a shark cage. Now that DX can't cheat, will Owen Hart finally be able to get it done? The New Age Outlaws versus LOD. Yes, it's a rematch from the Royal Rumble, but LOD are LOD 2000. They've got Sonny. Like, this is a different Outlaws. They're part of DX. You're still seeing, like, some of the very same stories, but the whole world has changed over this little WrestleMania threshold, and now these matches have got entirely different juice to buy them again. This is a backlash by any other name. They are strapping up all these old feuds, but a month removed from WrestleMania, it all feels brand spanking new. And speaking, Benno, of brand spanking new, I would be remiss if I didn't mention on this Unforgiven card that we've also got the new Midnight Express taking on the Rock and Roll Express for the NWA World Tag Team titles. We've got also in title action, one Stone Cold Steve Austin defending his title against the new number one contender, Dude Love. And last, but my word not least, have you ever heard of Sawyer Brown, a very popular country music act? Well, if you haven't, get excited because they're going to be doing a lovely little song and dance, but not just by themselves, Benno. No. They're going to be doing a song and dance with Jeff Jarrett, who out of fucking nowhere has decided, oh, you know what was pretty good? My New Generation gimmick. And he's brought it back with zero explanation. He's left the NWA behind. He rides a horse now. He's got Robert Fuller, now renamed as Tennessee Lee, with that massive dick tucked into his trousers. And he's even got his old JJ flashing suit back.
Which doesn't fit him anymore, by the way.
No. Just when you think the new generation is dead forever, trust Jeff to think, that's what I need to mine. That's what I need to bring back. Steve Austin doesn't want to work me. I don't need Steve Austin. I've got J-double-F, J-A-R-R-E-double-T. What the fuck were you thinking when this popped back up in our timeline?
Maybe what I was thinking was maybe he'll figure out how to spell Tennessee as well. He struggles with the E's at the end of that one when he's doing the old catchphrase. But I think the thing that pops to mind for me is just, Jeff going, forget everything they said 6 weeks ago, about this being rubbish and this being the real Jeff Jarrett. No, this is the real Jeff Jarrett. And it wouldn't last, unfortunately, either. But God, those sunglasses, that jacket, very much look like they've been pulled out of storage. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of him on this upcoming Small Letters in Your House.
Yeah, it's been an incredible 2 months. Thank you, as always, sticking with us as we try and inevitably
incredible job,
fail.
Mate, as always.
Well, thank you. I can only apologise for trying, as always, to condense Vince Russo's insanity every Monday night into one single podcast between these two shows. We'll intend to bring back a 5-star match review when we can, but often we look at these Raw lineups and just think, maybe we kick that one into the long grass for now. But yes, if you want to, leave us a 5-star review. Do so. You all know the crack by now. Leave us a review request in the comments box with a 5-star review. And at some point, Benno and I will definitely get to your request. If you go back in the archive, you can hear us review all sort of stuff outside of the New Generation canon, featuring different wrestlers, nothing to do with this timeline. If there's just something you fancy listening to me and Benno talk about, stick it in the comments to the 5-star review, and we'll get to that in the future. Unforgiven is next on the horizon. Before we do that, I suppose we better get out of here. If you want any more of my bollocks, you can check out What Culture Wrestling. Just Google my name. I promise most of the time, if this is the first time you're listening, I don't actually sound like this. My voice is completely gone, not just from having a cold, but from frankly recapping the Attitude Era any given week. But yeah, at What Culture Wrestling, we do daily wrestling podcasts where we review and preview all the weekly wrestling shows from WWE and AEW. Well, not Collision. Who would preview Collision? Pay-per-view reviews, Saturday Night's Main Event, all that sort of good stuff. I understand very soon there's going to be a big wrestling show in Chicago at the end of September. Looking forward to covering that one. And I think AEW are in town as well. And yeah, all the usual sort of stuff. 1/3 of the Dudley Boys, wherever you get your podcast from. What Culture Wrestling, search my name, you'll find all that there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like highest recommendation, and like more credit to Michael. Like I say, his voice has been going during this one, and also like people with a keen ear might have noticed the opening 5 minutes we lost, and then we had to record again, so that might have been where it sounded really funky in the first 5 minutes. So we added an extra 5 minutes on top as well. But sterling job as always, Michael. The good news is, mate, I've got a 3-hour podcast that we might be recording in the same session for another website. But speaking of that website, obviously, yeah, we can find my other stuff. Patreon.com/grapple. Obviously, yeah, plenty going on between obviously AEW pay-per-view coverage, SummerSlam way in the rear view, and you can check out that stuff as well. All of our all-in coverage and coming forth, all of our all-out coverage as well, and just one more pitch, I suppose, for the WCW Bash at the Beach 98 review. If you want to find out what was going on the other channel at the time of all of the happenings here, you can hear Michael over on our Patreon with me and Matty as well.
Well, with all that said, I guess until next time, and what a next time that's going to be, thanks for the house.
Get a nice one.
Get on your feet. Got another show to go. We're all together. All together. All together. Best there is, best there was, best there ever will be.